Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our channel. The date is the 23rd of December 2025. We are recording this video in relation to a recent video one of our students, Shabab, published on apostasy and punishment in Islamic law. One of the comments was quite extensive. It was likely from somebody either who has misconceptions or is one of the common Islamophobic type of characters. Regardless of their background, it was quite a detailed questions, and we thought it might be a good opportunity to discuss some of the issues and misconceptions around issues such as jizya, harb, apostasy, and the various ayahs, when taken out of context, will give a certain impression, whereas when you take things into full context, it gives a completely different picture. And more than that, it will also dispel some of the misunderstandings, the background, the history, its implementation. Something which isn't necessarily understood in the Western world because there are common tropes and common misconceptions that have proliferated and are becoming more pronounced now with the extreme Islamophobia and overt Islamophobia and reimagining history. So in the past, we are all familiar with the concept of Orientalism and how they used to try to circumvent and subvert history. Now the same thing is happening again, but with added vigor, as well as the fact we can certainly concede. Our channel doesn't shy away from anything, and we do concede errors that happen in the Muslim world as well. We believe our message to be infallible. We believe it's protected. We believe it's the divine message. However, we will not defend historical events done by people who are not divinely protected. And the one who is divinely protected is our Prophet ﷺ, and who have a good blueprint are the first Khulafa who followed, and even they aren't divinely protected. So this will be, inshallah, an opportunity to dispel some of these misconceptions. So we have our resident scholar, Professor Muhammad Al-Masri, who is very much adept at answering the questions, putting full context to the various verses, analyzing the hadith that have been cited as well. So, as mentioned, it was in one of our comments, which I will add the link to the video in which the comment was originally made, and it was a bit of a back and forth. So, full context is initially somebody made a comment, and then reference was made to the nature of jizya, and the explanation was given that jizya was levied on non-Muslim male able-bodied citizens of the Islamic Confederation or state, exempting them from military service, and not the view of the common Islamophobic tropes, whereby it was an onerous tax and it was completely breaking, etc., etc. So, in response to that, their comment started with jizya has nothing to do. So I'll now read out the comment. Jizya has nothing to do with military service, military context being the tax levied on male able-bodied citizens exempted from military service. And then they said Surah 9:29 is very clear as to what jizya is. And that is قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله وباليوم الآخر ولا يحرمون ما حرم الله ورسوله ولا يبدون دون الحق ومن الذين أوتوا الكتاب حتى يؤتى الجزية عن
يدهم صاغرون. Yeah. Okay.
صاغرون. So the translation of this, apologies, because I've got it in OneNote, it's spell checking it, so it's a bit obstructed. Fight those people of the book who do not believe in God and the last day, those who do not forbid that which has been forbidden by God and his messenger, and do not follow the religion of truth until they pay the exemption tax after having been subdued. So the following commentary from this individual is: Allah told Muhammad ﷺ to fight and kill all those who don't believe in Islam as the truth, even the people of the book who are Jews and Christians. If they do not want to convert to Islam, they have to pay this jizya, which is a protection tax. And if they refuse to convert to Islam or die, they must pay the jizya to Muhammad with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Dwell on the verse. Allah, whose Muhammad never said anything about what you are saying. So
Yeah.
trying to rebuttal.
Okay.
This is Muslims of today fabrications. They are ashamed. They're trying to say that we're ashamed. Newsflash: we're never ashamed of the truth. Whoever this is goes on to say this verse abrogated Surah 256, Surah Baqarah 256, which is لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم.
Is this the guy who made the comment? The one
that was somebody else. That person was a monosyllabic idiot. This is somebody who's more coherent. So there is this. The translation of this verse is: there is no compulsion in religion. The difference between guidance and error has been made clear. Whoever rejects false gods and believes in God has grasped firm, unshakable support. God hears all and knows all. Then they also reference Surah 9, verse 5. فإذا سلخ الأشياء أشهر حرمات فاقتلوا المشركين حيث وجدتموهم وخذوهم واحصروهم واقعدوا لهم كل مرصد فإن تابوا وأقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة فخلوا سبيلهم إن الله غفور رحيم. And that is, but once the sacred months are over, kill those idolaters wherever you find them and besiege them, ambush them and imprison them. However, if they repent and pray and pave the purifying arms, let them go on their way, for God is the most forgiving, the mercy giver. And there's quite a few verses that are referenced. If you like, I can read them all, or I'll leave that.
No. Let's just clarify: is that the same comment, or is it two comments?
It's the same comment. Same comment.
He's commenting, or is he commenting on one of our shabab having a clip?
You're having that video about apostasy, and then there's a bunch of verses.
The one who commenting is he pretending to be a Muslim, or he's
no, not pretending. It's clearly their position is very clear. They are definitely not on our page. They said, the way that they're spoken. And
is his name known, so we can glean from which background he comes?
I can't recall. Let me just see if I can bring.
In the future, we should have these basic things. Just a person who called himself blah blah blah, for example.
Yeah, because the name wasn't necessarily one of those ones that kind of struck me as specific.
I understand, but generally, a person who called himself blah blah said this and this and this. So if he hears that the response, he knows that he's the one addressed. Yeah, so the things like basic things that should be done. Anyway,
I'll try to see if I can find it. I can find the name while we're here.
So he says. He claims, according to his point of view, or who said that is abrogated, or some scholar said it's abrogated. Yes, some scholar did say something like that. Now the question is that what is the real thing which the Quran says in reality, and what scholarly blunders have been done in history, or governmental blunders have been done in history. Okay,
so I've got the name now. It's Sarah Watts.
Okay, Sarah Watts. So it's just clearly English or American or anyway, Anglo-Saxon. Okay, so Sarah Watts in the future should be stick to this, so we have I put this question. She's obviously speaking. Obviously, she's relatively reasonably informed here and there. The translation of the ayah of that fight people of the book, etc., etc. Her translation is wrong. It's definitely wrong.
No, that was I took that translation myself.
No. Her claim that Allah is ordering Muhammad as well. Is that what she said?
Yes. That was what she said.
I mean, that's the way she translated the ayah or presented the ayah. It's not saying kill them and so on. They fight them until they pay the jizya. It doesn't mention embrace Islam. It doesn't mention anything. So she adding from her imagination from other places here. That's what fits her desire. Instead of getting the whole picture. So let's get going. What's happening on there?
Also, if I can continue as well, so there was other verses as well where there is fight them until there's no persecution and all worship is devoted to God alone.
We know that. I will address all of that in one sequence. That's the way. That's the way it should be done, and the way some Muslim scholars should have done it.
Okay, so now we've got all the we'll go into the background, but would you like me to list all the verses that she references?
No, we'll come to them. We'll come to them. We'll come to them. It will be clear. And also some fundamental principles of the law and the principles of abrogation, which have been missed also by Muslim scholars. We have to admit that, by many Muslim scholars. Number one, first of all, when Prophet was sent in Mecca, he was at his starting position with the whole world is at peace. There was no war. There was no hostility. Start with. Hostility and oppression started from Quraysh. Yeah, they were oppressing us. He was a citizen there, essentially, and the Muslim was a citizen there. They were oppressed by Quraysh. Some of them immigrated to Abyssinia, and they lived there. We address Abyssinia, Habasha, later. Then, but not only that, they were prohibited from fighting. How do we know that? A later surah in the Quran, Allah is rebuking those who are afraid to go to fight. Said, don't you see those? Don't see those who were ordered not to fight. Hold your hand back. But when the qital was ordained on them, they are now fearing the people and they don't want to fight. So they are people of weak faith. So he's rebuking them. So this ayah shows clearly that they were ordered in Mecca not to fight. Fighting as wage warring, not self-defense in the case of someone attacks you. Thus, self-defense is a fundamental principle established in Mecca, established from time before Abraham and Noah until Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is the basic right, which enshrined in all revelations. But waging war, meaning is getting an army, as they say in Arabic, organizing a front, having a banner, and starting fighting for someone who may be hostile, maybe not hostile. Yeah, okay. So it was prohibited. Upon immigration, during the immigration itself, or immediately after arriving in Medina, permission to fight was given to those who have been oppressed and expelled out of their lands. That's in Surah Al-Hajj. If you follow the stages, you see how things have developed. Permission was given, only permission, not order to fight. Good? And the ayah says clearly, those who have been oppressed and expelled of their countries, where Allah, and also the Surah Al-Hajj, the ayahs of the Hajj justify why this permission is given, because if Allah would not have permitted this to fight back the oppressor, then mosques, monasteries, churches, synagogues, and places of worship in which the name of Allah is mentioned frequently will be demolished and the believer will be destroyed. So this permission is given, meaning implicitly that bloodshed is abhorred and not liked, but that's out of necessity. Later in the Baqarah, then the command came, not only permission, now you are ordered to fight those who fight you, started fighting you. And don't transgress, meaning don't fight those who do not fight you. Okay? So fighting is only for those who started aggression, who initiated the hostility. You will never be in Islam allowed to start hostility against someone which was never hostile to you. And the hostility is that someone who oppresses you in your religion. That's what regarding Islamic fighting. I'm not mentioning self-defense and someone attacking you as a person or a country, invading the country and so on, to loot your properties or take your woman and so on. That's self-defense. We're not discussing that. We're discussing fighting someone who has oppressed you in your religion or expelled you out of your country because of that. That's qital fi din. That's what the jihad in Islam. And that's the only permitted jihad, except obviously self-defense. You are sitting home, someone come break the door, come to take your wealth by force. You are allowed to defend yourself by all possible means, including killing him or trying to rape your wife or your rape sister. That's self-defense. That's not waging war. And for a country, applies the same thing. You have the right to living in your own area. Someone invading you, which have never been provoked before, has no right to come in your country without your permission or take your properties or take your oil, like what the Americans are doing in Venezuela, for example, to be current in the current affairs and so on. That's an aggressor, and you have the right of self-defense. That we are not discussing. So only those who has initiated hostility, you are allowed to fight them. And if you transgress this limit, you are now a transgressor. Allah is not permitting that. And no order to fight generally has come later. That's what the people claim it is abrogating anything. I will discuss the issue of abrogating later. For example, they claim the ayah وقاتل المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة. The ayah is self-explanatory. Fight the mushrikeen all together as they fight you all together. As they fight you all together. They are fighting all you together. So don't be because the mushrikeen or the enemies of Islam usually they fight you in a coalition, and we have seen that in our time. For against Yemen, for example, they have the so-called prosperity guardians, 30 plus states joining together. They never come alone, or rarely they come alone, even if they are owner of nuclear weapons and so on. They come with other allies and so on. So fight them together, all of you. This addresses the Muslim today also, but obviously Muslim failed. Yemen fought alone. Saudi Arabia let them down, actually stabbed in the back. Your Emirates did that, other did that. But it shows the Muslims are not complying with the command. That's kaffa. If the mushrikeen fight you, all of them together, then you should also, all of you together, you should somewhat, a few of them should not, you of you should not stay back. So with the way, usually this is quoted only half of the ayah. قاتل المشركين كافة. Fight all the mushrikeen, all of them. But they don't read the rest of the ayah. So that's in the same spirit of the previous one. Only those who started hostility to you, you fight them. And if they fight in a group or told all of them in an alliance, then you should be all of you, or all who you believe, or believer, being tribes, being in nation state, you should be together. Unfortunately, we see that Muslims are negligent in that and not doing that. That's the reason everyone is attacking them and taking liberty with them. So that's one. Then some people claim that the ayah in Surah Al-Tawbah, the opening of Surah Al-Tawbah, are abrogating these. That's fighting all mushrikeen, generally all over the world. But that's not true. Because it's only one ayah which looks like that, it seems like that. If you open Surah Al-Tawbah, maybe the translation, and we go through the 3 first ayahs, we can go through. But let me give you the summary. It is actually for those who the sequence of the 11 ayahs clarify the things completely. We leave no doubt about that. There's only those mushrikeen who broke their covenant, so it addressed the mushrikeen who have been hostile previously, and there was a ceasefire with them, but they broke it. And some of them were still remaining when the surah was revealed. Mecca was defeated before, but some of them were around Mecca and elsewhere who joined Mecca in that treaty. They're still around. These has to be fought. The next ayahs, only sequence, shows clearly that it is only this group, the ones who completed the covenant and did not break it. Nobody should touch them. And then at the end, Allah is encouraging the believer for this fight. I think ayah number 11 in the surah, saying, "Are you not going to fight someone who started the war from the beginning and expelled the messenger and expelled you out of your homes? Are you afraid of them? You should be afraid of Allah if you neglect your duty." Now, if you open any translation in Surah Al-Tawbah and we read the translation, when we do tafsir, we take the translation of Muhammad Asad maybe, or the other one, and then we go through them. Well, 2 translations for each ayah. But read the ayahs one after one, translation after translation. Then it will become clear. I want to comment after, if anyone a small comment, or you can continue with the next. So open this Islam Awakened or whatever site.
Sure. So Surah Tawbah. And in fact, Surah 9. So in fact, she does reference quite a few verses. She does reference in whole 8 and 9. So Tawbah and Anfal as being some kind of silver bullet. Anyway, so the first one, Muhammad Asad, the first ayah, disavow.
Then we go to Anfal. She must be also mistaken in Anfal. But this go Tawbah, because Tawbah is very late. Anfal is early, about Badr. So Tawbah is supposed to be the later one, and allegedly the abrogating one. It abrogates nothing. So start with.
Because that's also a thing about abrogation. It has to be a direct.
We'll come to that. Okay. Let's go the highest first. We don't need even to argue with the abrogation. There's no abrogation there whatsoever. Okay. There's none.
So verse 9, Surah 9, Surah Tawbah, verse 1. Disavowal by God and his apostle is herewith announced until those who ascribe divinity to aught beside God and with whom you, O believers, have made a covenant.
had made a covenant. Yeah.
Announce to them unto them in brackets, go then freely about the earth for 4 months, but know that you can never elude God, and that verily God shall bring disgrace upon all who refuse to acknowledge the truth.
So that's this issue. They had a covenant, and the one who broke the covenant will be clarified later. So this is announcing to those with whom we have a covenant. Clearly, that's addressing the messenger at that time, primarily, and in one similar situation in the future. But this situation addressed, definitely the people in Amazon are not addressed for that. Certainly not. Either now, then, or now. So that's number one. And Allah has nothing to do with them, but giving them 4 months warning period. So it's not just attacking them. Although they broke the covenant zone, you can invade them right away without warning. You give them 4 months to go around, to think about it, and then settle their scores correctly or face war. The next ayah is the one who someone may misunderstand, but read it first and see what does it say.
So this is verse 3. And a proclamation from God and his apostle is herewith made unto all mankind on this day of the greatest pilgrimage. God disavows all who ascribe divinity to aught beside him, and so doth his apostle. Hence, if you repent, it shall be for your own good. And if you turn away, then know that you can never elude God. And unto those who are bent on denying the truth, give thou, O prophet, the tidings of grievous chastisement.
Okay, stop here. This one says, it starts in Arabic, say, وَأَذَانٌ, announcement, public announcement to all mushrikeen on the whole world, since that, from that revelation until the end of time. The first ayah is Bara'a, Allah disavow any relation with those with whom we have a covenant and they broke it, as explained in the number 3, 4, 5, which will come. This second one, the occasion is now, first of all, Allah has nothing to do with those who have, with whom you have a covenant, and then as explained below, the third and fourth ayah, etc., the one who broke the covenant. Then another announcement generally for all humanity until Yawm al-Qiyamah, until the end of time, that Allah is having no relation with the pagans, and all relation with him is broken, and the messenger is ordered to tell them, you are not going to get away from Allah and get the glad tidings of a severe punishment in the hellfire. This is announcement for everyone. That's nothing to do with the war. This is announcing them that you are at loss and you are not going to escape Allah. And the punishment will be in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Read the ayah again, number 2, once more.
So this is number 3.
No, sorry, number 2. Repeat again so people comprehend what we are saying. It's general for all mushrikeen until Yawm al-Qiyamah.
Okay. Announce unto them, go then freely about the earth for 4 months.
No, not announce to them. Who said that?
You know, number 3 is the one.
No, 3. No, 2. Repeat 2.
That was 2. Number 3 is the one that we were on earlier, which is a proclamation from God and his apostle.
No. Rash, let's go. Start with number 1 again.
Okay.
Step by step, one by one. Yeah.
Disavowal by God and his apostle is herewith announced unto those who ascribe divinity to aught beside God, and with whom you, O believers, have made a covenant.
Yeah, that's what we discussed.
Yeah.
The further explanation of the state or affair of these guys will come down.
Yeah.
But the announcement, you have now 4 months' time to rethink your situation and come to a settlement, or it's war. Yeah?
Yeah. Then number 2 is announce unto them, then go freely about the earth for 4 months, but know that you can never elude God, and that verily God shall bring disgrace.
How come there's a translation like that? Look to another translation.
You are free to move around for 4 months. So this is number 2. You are free to move around for 4 months, but you can never escape God, and God will disgrace all who deny the truth. فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَأَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرُ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ غَيْرَ.
That's number 2. So it's, I may confuse. 1 and 2 is one context. That's the guys who have a covenant and so on. Now that number 3, let us see. That's the announcement to all mankind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a proclamation from God and his apostle is herewith made unto all mankind on this day of the greatest pilgrimage. God disavows all who ascribe divinity to aught beside him, and so doth his apostle. Hence, if you repent, it shall be for your own good, and if you turn away, then know that you can never elude God. And unto those who are bent on denying the truth, give thou, O prophet, the tidings of grievous chastisement.
Okay, that's it for this announcement in the day of Hajj to all mankind. This is not related to the first 2 except that it is since the first two are settled proclamation, a limited proclamation. Now it fits rhetorically to have a proclamation to all mankind after that. Then he goes back to the first group after that. So this is you can take that out and the context will be continuously. But this is the way of the Quran in many places, doing flash forward, flash back, or while discussing a story, instead to command to Muhammad to do something. Yeah?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, but there are many instances in where the Quran changes.
Yeah. No. It may. For example, when Musa asked for a messenger to come after him, etc., in Mount Sinai, which is in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy number 20, in the Quran, it mentioned the same story roughly. Obviously, the formation is different, and it says when Moses supplicated with that, Allah said, "I will have a messenger," and so on, etc., 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 and he will be commanding good and forbidding evil, doing this and this. And then before continuing with the story of the people of Musa, because that was in response to Musa, because his people wanted to see Allah directly, and they were struck with the lightning, and they died. And Allah instructed them, and then Musa was supplicating for them. Allah said, "I will send a messenger, but not from them, from their brethren." That's in the Old Testament. It will have this, and then the messenger is directly addressed, "Qul, you, O Muhammad, I am the messenger of Allah to all of you." And then the next ayah continue, and from the people of Moses, this and this happened. So continue. So it inserted because it's the right time for the Prophet to put that. Flash forward to Muhammad, say this, flash backward to the story of Musa. The same is here. So number 3, take this out, and then continue. Number 4 is the continuation of 1 and 2. But because of the importance of this announcement for all mankind, that any mushrik, any polytheist, any disbeliever will not get away from Allah. And the chastisement will be in the hellfire. That's fundamental. Next, number 4.
Number 4, the accepted shall be from among those who ascribe divinity to aught beside God, people with whom you, O believers, have made a covenant, and who thereafter have in no wise failed to fulfill their obligations towards you, and neither have aided anyone against you. Observe then your covenant with them until the end of the agreement time with them.
Exactly.
Verily, this refutes them. Verily, God love those who are conscious of him.
Okay. So that's clearly relating to the ayah number 1 and 2, that except from this regulation, is the one you have a covenant and they fulfilled it, and there was no break or no cheating or no playing around with their tail. Yeah. For these, fulfill until the time is over, and that's it. What will happen to them after that is not clear. Yeah. But because they have a time of 10 years, they do not break the covenant, so they are fine. They are excluded. Okay. So this is ayah number 4. So you see, if we take 3 out, the proclamation for all mankind, which is for rhetorical and importance reason, had been inserted in the 3rd place and the 3rd ayah. But someone could say it should have been number 11, and we have shifted the numbering. But the rhetoric purpose is very clear here. So number 4 is that except from the treatment of 1 and 2 is this group, and then read the one after that. That's number 5.
So this is what is going to those. In contextualizing it as those who do break the
carry on.
And so when the sacred months are over, slay those who ascribe divinity to aught beside God, wherever you may come upon them, and take them captive and besiege them, and lie in wait for them at every conceivable place. Yet if they repent and take to prayer and render the purifying dues, let them go their way, for behold, God is much forgiving, a dispenser of grace.
So that's now the continuation of number 5, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the continuation of number 4. When the month of sanctity, this is these 4 months, or the announcement of 4 months, either it is the month of sanctity which were agreed by the Arabs, or these 4 months. And these 4 months which fighting is not permitted, when they are over, then fight them all together, unless they repent. Now we know from hadith, mutawatir hadith, that there is another option besides repenting and basic Islam, and one option in between, actually more than several options. One option is embracing Islam. and accepting the citizenship of the Islamic State. The hadith which we have in our research called At-Tawbah al-Islami, Islamic citizenship and the right of self-determination. That's the option number one. That's the preferred option. Option number two, and the hadith al-mutawatir is multiply corroborated report. And number two, this was, as the scholars say, is specify the generative. The generative is that only thing, the only conclusion should be embracing Islam and mention the details. Then let them alone. The hadith specify is another option, embracing Islam and joining the Islamic State as if they are an entity as a sub-state, or if they are persons as citizens. If they don't want to join the Islamic State but still embrace Islam, then they can stay as an independent entity. That's what the hadith of in that research says. And unfortunately, the hadith have been neglected by many scholars. We have to admit that, unfortunately. And third option is that they pay jizya. Even mushrikeen can pay jizya against the conclusion of many classical scholars. Without the jizya only for the people with the book. It's not true. It's also for these. But the hadith, which, as I said, narrated in the exact wording, multiple channels. I think 6 channels we have listed, independent channels, completely from different 6 Sahabi.
So just to remind the people of this context, this is again those people who have broken the covenant, who have initiated and then they were given leeway. So just period of time, which are the sacred months, and then after that, those again referencing to the people who originally did that act of breaking the covenant.
And this will it will be confirmed later. So just continue. That's very clear. It is the same people, because it is a clear context. Okay.
Yeah. What you do find is often Islamophobes, they just take things completely out of context. So this is
not only Islamophobe, by the way. We have to admit that some Muslim scholars, some Muslims take it out of context also, unfortunately. So we have to admit that. That's no issue. Next ayah.
Okay. And this is ayah 6. And if any of those who ascribe divinity to aught beside God seeks thy protection, grant him protection, though he might be able to hear, this is in brackets, hear the word of God from thee, and thereupon convey him to a place where he can feel secure. This because they may be people who sin only because, that's in brackets, they do not know the truth.
No. So if one of the mushrikeen, one single person, or scattered persons, even his individuality, ask for protection, ask for asylum, or say, then grant him asylum, so he get the opportunity to listen to the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are also obliged to give him security until he reaches the place of his safety. So this one is excluded from the warfare. Maybe he belongs to a warrior group or a warring tribe, but he comes and asks for security. I want security. I want to listen to the Quran. I want to have safety. I have a dispute with my own people, for whatever reason. So he comes from people who are at war with you. We're talking about people at war, not people at peace, etc. People at war. He comes, he asks for security. It's essentially an asylum, how asylum should be managed. Then give him this opportunity, and Allah justified that by saying, this way he has the opportunity to listen to what Allah has revealed, get the opportunity to see how Islam is applied in this domain, where he has the security, and then make sure that he reaches his destination of safety, the place where he thinks is secure. You don't just dump him after 3 months or 1 year, or dump him out. No, until you say, now I find security in that place, let me get there. And you get him to that place of security. In modern time, for example, put him in the plane until he reaches there. Then he may become a warrior again, or become a Muslim, or stay Islam. This is not relevant what happens after that. So this is the asylum regulation in one ayah. It is the time for that. And the reason for mentioning in this context of war is that granting asylum is even for those coming from a warring party. And for theory for others, obviously. Next.
Okay. This is verse 7. How could they who ascribe to divinity to aught beside God be granted a covenant by God and his apostle, unless it be those of them with whom you, O believers, have made a covenant in the vicinity of the inviolable house of worship? In brackets, as for the latter, so long as they remain true to you, be true to them. For verily God loved those who are conscious of him.
So again, repeating that, there's just by merely being human beings and so on is not enough, because they have started hostility. But those who have previously a covenant, that covenant will continue as long as they are true to the covenant and you are true to them. Okay. Next ayah.
Next ayah is ayah 8. How else, how in brackets else could it be, since they in brackets who are hostile to you were to overcome you, they would not respect any tie with you, nor any obligation to protect you. They seek to please you with their mouths, the while their hearts remain averse to you, and most of them are iniquitous.
That's obviously explaining that these mushrikeen who previously did not commit to their covenant and started hostility and war, as explained also earlier and later, it will come more of that. They are full of hatred in their heart. They will not respect any covenant or any the verbal translation they will not respect any relation to a deity or any relation of a covenant. They will just forego that. And example, look what the Israel are doing. They do a covenant of a ceasefire and they break it all the time. They don't respect any. Neither they have respect to God, saying we fear God, that we are breaking our word. No, they respect the covenant with other people and the commitment they made to other people. They think they have the right to break the covenants the way they wish, and their hearts are full of hatred and evil intention. We have an example. You can see the example now. So Allah is warning us: these people who are worthy of fight, they are this. That's their nature. Don't think they are good because they smile and they talk to you nicely. Don't accept their nice talk. That's not true. That's what they are. This Allah is being omniscient, having comprehensive knowledge, know the situation of their heart, and explaining that to the believer. Next ayah, justify fair.
This is number 9. God's messages have they bartered away for a trifling gain, and have thus turned away from his path. Evil, behold, is all that they are wont to do.
Yeah, further description there. They have here the messages of Allah and they rejected it, and they are evildoer, etc. Yeah, that's describing their state of affairs, not only in their heart but also their public behavior is very clear also. Okay, next.
Number 10, respecting no tie and no protective obligation with regard to a believer, and it is they who transgress the bounds of what is right.
So that's again describing the state of affairs of these people. So that's all to encourage the believer to fight them. Don't be fooled by their nice language, offer of peace, Abrahamic accord. We all stand for Abraham. We want peace in the area, 3,000 years of peace, and don't feel fooled by that. What their heart contains is very clear, and their behavior before that shows that. Next one.
Yet, this is number 11, yet if they repent and take to prayer and render the purifying dues, they become your brethren in faith. And clearly do we spell out these messages unto people of, in brackets, innate knowledge.
So that's make a cut. All these negative attributes given to these people in the 3 previous side, because they are outside the fold of Islam. If they embrace Islam and establish prayer and give the purifying tax, the zakat, the purification tithes or charity, then this way their situation have slipped over to be a good believer. They are your brother in faith. Some of them may be hypocrites, maybe they're pretending or they are not, but this is in the heart. Only Allah knows that, and He will manage it. But if that's publicly the case, if they announce that publicly and establish it publicly, as in say individual persons, the case we're talking about individual or an entity, then that's it. That's it. Then hostility ends. You cannot continue to say, oh, they belong to that race, or they belong to that country who waged war against us 50 years ago or 10 years ago. No. The war is ended now. So that's how war ends. That's one. Well, from the hadith, which is said, coming from 6 channels, multiple corroborated, another option of ending the war is embracing Islam. And embracing Islam is not, making no difference between the one who accept to become member of the either citizen or a member entity of the state, and the one who stay independent and become believer. But we have another option, is that they remain their faith, they cease fire, cease war, absolute peaceful situation and alliance with the Islamic State and pay jizya. Yeah, that's a further option, which is clarified in the hadith. But the ayah is mentioned the primary option. Mentioning the primary option does not exclude that other options are available, as was explained by the messenger. Yeah. Next.
Number 12. But if they break their solemn pledges after having concluded a covenant and revile your religion, then fight against these archetypes of faithlessness, who, behold, have no regard for their own pledges, so that they might desist, and in brackets, from aggression.
Yeah, that's clear. That's if the covenant have been made, and this hints also that the previous case of that the war ends by them embracing Islam is not the only case. For example, they may accept to be in alliance in the war, in an alliance with Islamic State, and pay maybe a jizya or an agreed upon participation for taxes and so on, and then they break it. Then they become warrior again, and then they are deserving fight. Next ayah.
The next ayah, which is number...
Describe the whole situation with these guys, that they are the one initiated the war. I think it's number 14, the next one.
Yeah, so right now I'm 13, which is, would you perchance fail to fight against people who have broken their solemn pledges and have done all that they could to drive the apostle away and have been first to attack you? Do you hold them in awe?
First, yeah, have been first, what? Ben, read it again.
Have been first to attack you.
First to attack you. They the ones started the war. They are the one started the hostility. It's not a peaceful mushrik who never started war. And not a people of Amazon.
Yes, it says وَهُمْ بَدَعُوكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. The first time. Do you
fear them?
Do you hold them in awe? Nay, it is God alone of whom you ought to stand in awe, if you are truly believers.
Yeah, so don't be afraid because they are powerful or something like that. The one who breaks the covenant and who started the war. Don't be intimidated by that. And we know, just let me apply to current time. When the American invaded Afghanistan, they didn't do it alone. They got all NATO with them. All of them together, coming together. But in that situation, the Afghans showed that they are not willing to surrender and hold them in awe. And they fought them for 20 years in the current situation. The same with the Yemeni. When they came to Prosperity Gardens and got with the aircraft carrier and fixed their muscle, the Yemeni decided, no, we are not holding it all. We fear Allah more than we fear these guys. We will fight them until they run away. We have seen that by ourselves. So we see a practical application now of these things.
Okay, next verse is fight against them. This is 14. Fight against them. God will chastise them by your hands and will bring disgrace upon them and will succor you against them, and he will soothe the bosoms of those who believe.
Yeah, so that's, you see, that's Allah is promising. If you fight against them, when there's a way to fight, the one who started the hostility in the first place, and they expelled the messenger out of their range, or people in the future who are hostile, there's no messenger anymore. He died, he's buried, but his follower may be oppressed and attacked by some hostile forces, like the American did with Prosperity and their allies Prosperity against Yemen just last year, or the American did 20 years ago to the Afghani, or more than 20 years, a few years more than 20 against Afghani. But if you fight them and you're not being so terrified and you're terrified into submission and accept to be cowards, then Allah will help you. Allah will punish them through your hand. And then he will heal the pain and suffering of your hearts. Because if you are attacked by an enemy who subdue you and bomb you like the Americans did to Yemen or to Afghanistan, then naturally you are full of anger and wish for compensation and revenge. And with the victory coming from Allah Ta'ala, that will ease the heartburn you are getting because you have been aggressed against. Okay. Next ayah.
Next ayah 15, and remove the wrath that is in their hearts, and God will turn in his mercy unto whom he wills, for God is all-knowing and all-knowing wise.
So, and then also the wrath in your heart, the anger will be removed, you will be relaxed after victory and so on. And then don't be surprised, some of these attackers, some of these hostile people may come to their senses. How come that we have been defeated? Despite our overwhelming force, like for example, this example we have seen in Iraq, Many of the forces who invade Iraq at the beginning, arrogantly. Many of the Americans who came there embraced Islam after that. So Allah may make that an opportunity for some of these hostile forces to embrace Islam. Then they become brother in faith. Then instead of being an enemy in time past, now we become a brother and friend now. And we have seen that practically happening also in Iraq and also in time of the Hijrah of Allah. Next ayah.
Also, just as a side note, a lot of people in Guantanamo, the guards of Guantanamo became Muslim.
Yeah, also, but it's a universal phenomenon. And this if you read the ayahs like this, taking just number 3 out, which is announcement to all mankind that shirk will not help you, you will not escape Allah and the punishment of Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is a general announcement, but it has been put forward because there was previously a proclamation, and this is another general. There was a specific proclamation, and then there's a general proclamation to all mankind. So it was important to do the proclamation at the beginning and then continue with the first proclamation, and it's what's entailed within it. So next ayah, I think the context has finished already.
Yeah, and so we ended with, and will remove the wrath in their hearts. And then now number 16. Do you, O believer, think that you will be spared unless God takes cognizance of your having striven hard in his case without seeking help from any but God and his apostle and those who believe in him? For God is aware of all you do.
This encouragement again. Do you think that some believer may say, oh, which kind of hardship? This faith brought us hardship and hostility with other people and things like that. It makes our life difficult. Allah tells them, listen, this is how the universe is fashioned. Do you think that you claim to be a believer and you will come and request from God to give you the paradise just like that without being tested, especially at the foundation of a religion when a messenger comes? This generation may be a little bit more lucky. They will be less tested. Well, they have their own tests, obviously. But at the beginning, when you are founding a new nation, especially the final revelation making all humanity one community, or striving to make all humanity one community in the long run, then you have to have a solid foundation. And if you think you can get easily the divine mercy and get into paradise without being tested, you are gravely mistaken. Allah will test you, yes, everyone. So don't let the devil play with your mind that this testing is not worth this testing. The testing is a necessity. There is no escape from it. Okay, next ayah.
Okay, so the next ayah, number 17, is, it is not for those who ascribe divinity to aught beside God to visit or tend God's houses of worship.
That's another issue then. That's another issue. So the issue of warfare has been finished. Yeah, that's that issue.
So let me scan through the comments of this, because the first batch was related to Surah Al-Tawbah. Then there's a bunch that are related to Anfal.
Anfal is easy. Let us see what he's mentioning.
Yeah. Okay, bear with me. I just want to check to see what else there's on Tawbah. But we can go back to it, because so basically
we'll go back to it. We'll go bit by bit. Yeah.
Okay, so if we go to Anfal now, so she starts with 839. And so if I go to 839, then she goes back to 812 and 865. So basically taking individual ayahs, and it looks like there's not even any, she hasn't put them into context, so that they look on the outside, okay, this is a command to fight, but without any context, that doesn't answer anything.
Don't worry about that. Let us read the ayahs in context. Simple. The book is in our hand. It's very protected. It's very reserved.
So with how would you like me to approach this? Because she's taking
start with the number. You said ayah number 3. Let us read ayah number 3 and see what's before and after. And then
so this was 39. She started with 8. Now with Anfal, she started with 39. وقاتلوهم حتى لا يكونوا فتنة ويكون الدين كله لله. Yeah. فإن انتهوا فإن الله بما يعملون بصير. And fight against them until there is no more oppression and all worship is devoted to God alone.
Okay.
And if they desist, behold, God sees all that they do.
Okay. A previous ayah before that.
The previous before that is, tell those who are bent on denying the truth that if they desist, all that is the past shall be forgiven. But if they revert to their wrongdoing, let them remember what happened to the like of them in times gone by.
Well, with the one before that.
The one before that is so that God. So I'm going to go. So this one, so that God might separate the bad from the good and join the bad with one another and link them all together within his condemnation, place them in hell, then they are lost.
And the one before that.
And before that, behold, those who are bent on denying the truth are spending their riches in order to turn others away from God, and they will go on spending their.
That's all commentary in the Battle of Badr. Go before that.
Okay, and then, so how far would you like me to go? Shall I go?
Maybe we should taking the things out of it. Let's start with Surah Al-Anfal. The dispute about the booty.
The beginning of Al-Fad, from the beginning, yeah?
Yeah, which I have near to the beginning she started with.
She's just started at 39, then she went to 12.
No. She mentioned other ayahs in Anfal. Which the one?
The earliest one that is okay. I'll go to the earliest one that she's mentioned. The earliest one mentioned is 12. So that is إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة إني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا رعبا فاضربوا فوق الأعناق
واضربوا. This about Badr. This is go before now.
Okay, before that is إذ يغشيكم النعاس.
This is the description of Badr. The description of Badr. All that is about Badr. The Battle of Badr. The Battle of Badr is after permission has given to fight, and the Prophet wanted to take the caravan of the Qurayshi as a compensation for the wealth they have been expelled out of Mecca. But the caravan escaped, and the Mecca army came, and it came to the battle. And the whole surah is about the battle of that and related issue. The whole surah.
So the whole surah is prefaced on them having initiated aggression in the first place.
Oh yeah, that's forget it. They're addressing and the one Fadri before Anaq. So and Allah promised them that He would send angel to support them, and the angel came and they struck the disbeliever in a obviously supernatural way, etc. Some of the disbeliever have been killed in a supernatural way, as if they were struck with lightning or something like that. So that's I don't know what she invoking about that. What she is objecting to.
So just the verb. It seems like just the wording and taking them out of context is just makes it look like it's an arbitrary act. So in fact, just reading of it. So this is where she said, where Allah told Muhammad, who's Muhammad told the Muslims to fight the polytheists until they say that their religion, that Islam is their religion. So. For example, so this is 39, for example, fight them until there is no more persecution and all worship is devoted to God alone.
There's no more persecution. Let's read it. Yeah, I think you're reading it in Chinese. There's no more persecution, no more aggression, no more expelling people out of their home because of their belief, so that their freedom of belief and freedom of religion, which Quraysh was denying. That's it.
And the other one, so you mentioned the angels. This is your Lord revealed to the angels, I am with you, make the believers stand firm. I will put terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. So take strike them on their necks and the fingers. So again, it's the same thing. It's in that context. And the next one she references ayah 60, which is prepare. Let's say, the famous, prepare whatever forces so that you might frighten God's enemies and yours, and to frighten others unknown to you but known to God. Whatever you may do in God's cause will be repaid to you in full, and you will be justly rewarded.
Being prepared for hostile action of the enemy, prepare of the utmost force, so they can terrify the enemy, so it doesn't start up with the hostility in the first place. If you have sufficient force, then the enemy will see, oh, these guys are strong. I should see them. That's it.
And so what's the problem? What's the problem here? America's got a multi-trillion defense budget. Well, they're doing it. Every nation. You look at any defense budget.
But she neglected the ayah when says, I don't know the number of the ayah now. I don't know if you can search in Arabic the ayah when جنحوا للسلم فاجنح لها, when if they choose to go back to full peace, then incline to peace and rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says clear that يريد أن يخدعوك فإن الله حسبكم ما معكم. If they want to cheat you in this peace, the peace offer is a cheating, then don't worry about that. Allah is supporting you and the believer will be with you. So if they revert to full peace, and the full peace is meaning the state before they started the aggression. For example, let me give an example, 2 examples. For Quraysh is that they cease and desist, and they allow the believer to go back to Mecca if they want, and to have their possession, retain their properties, which have been confiscated and taken away. Obviously, this never happened for Quraysh until it was defeated in the conquest of Mecca. Another example, I'll give you another example, because war is conditioned on fighting you for your belief or expelling you off to your domain. Okay, so let us say, for example, the Zionist Jews in Palestine. What is the peace with them? What peace means with them? Their aggression is that they came there and took the land by force. Yeah. With the help of the British, which have no right on the land, they took by force. So the peace will be say, okay, stop fighting. We don't want to any more bloodshed. We package our luggage and go back to Brooklyn and New York. That's the real peace. Anything else is not real peace. That's the one you should accept. And if they are planning to cheat and so on, don't worry about that. If it comes to that situation, you are sufficiently strong and Allah with you and the believer are with you. Then you punish them appropriately in that situation. It will never happen by Israel this way. Because that's the only way peace could be with the satanic cancerous entity called Israel. It's removal. That's the only way. And this will be the peaceful removal. They will never get there. So they will be removed by surgical operation. Unfortunately, what can we do? That's it. And they will be. Don't worry about that. They will be. God willing, they will be intact. So she neglected that ayah. There's an order to accept peace, but the peace, the real peace, back to the situation of peaceful coexistence with them before the aggression, as before the aggression. Otherwise, it's not peace. Proving that they stay there for the land they stolen without at least moving out or compensation, which is acceptable to you, but there's no compensation for the land because the Palestinians have to come back where they're supposed to come back. So there's no peace without they're moving over this cancerous entity.
They will never even accept the right to return, which is enshrined within the UN.
For example,
they'll never even the stuff that's on the legal statutes that they're legally obligated to. Even by their own standards, their own Western subverted standards, the stuff that they stole and they put a mandate. Even that they don't adhere to, and ironically, the ones who believe in allegedly turning the other cheek expect us to not just turn the cheek, to run backwards.
I know we are not discussing current affairs now. Leave it there, but go back to the other verse. I'm astonished that she invoking Surah Al-Anfal because really Anfal, she was most likely scanning the whole Quran to find something. Because nobody in time past invoked Anfal in that because the context is very clear. It's the Battle of Badr and the relation of that. And the Battle of Badr is the Quraysh who started the war in the first place.
Just as a slight segue.
The first warring nation against Muslims were Quraysh, against their own citizens, expelling them out of their domain and confessing their wealth.
Part of the thing is, often with these Islamophobes, they take out all context. There isn't an objective. There isn't an objective for actual discourse. It's just literally taking things out of context. I mean, common sense will tell you.
We have also to criticize ourselves because taking things out of context is very common in Islamic scholarship and Muslim campaigner also.
But even on this subject itself, I mean, when the Muslims had complete domain, if we were to apply what they understand from these ayahs mean, that would be complete. There would be no minorities in our lands.
That's very clear, but we'll come to that. So let's go back to where we stopped. We said the order comes then to fight those who have started the aggression. And nothing came later which abrogates that. But by the way, if some scholars of Islam said, that's now addressing the Islamic scholar, not this lady. This lady is obviously, she's not a scholar, and she is looking she has its own glasses which are colored in a certain color, so she thinks in another color than the reality. She is not willing to take off the glass and look as objective as humanly possible. Nobody will be 100% objective, but you can try to be as objective as humanly possible. They say that they invoke the ayah وَقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً. We mentioned that the ayah itself refused كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً. It is to describe how to, I already explained that, to describe that if they fight as an alliance, then fight them also as an alliance. Don't be negligent. And they said Muslims are negligent in that, the catastrophic way nowadays. I said that already. And some invoke the ayahs of Anfal, of Tawbah, which we explained in the context of 13, which shows that واقتلوا المشركين حيث ثقفتموهم, kill the مشركين if you find them and drive them out, etc. All of this, they say, some Muslim scholar even made that mistake, say that abrogates the previous ayah. Let me give you a principle of abrogation, which many Muslim scholars missed. The general statement of the divine commandments in the Quran and the Sunnah is that if a command is general, it should be kept in its generality, but if there is an exception, specialization or restriction, that's an exception. Specialization meaning taking from a totality of things, some out, or a restriction is mentioned, then this will override the general command, because you have to accept the divine order for the general command and for the specification. If you violate the specification, you have violated the divine command. So the specification overrides the generality. So the apparent generality is not intended. It's linguistically, maybe rhetorically intended, but the specification or the specialization and the exception is called general. Exception clarify this issue. That's very clear. That's called bayan. That's explaining that the general is not general. Yeah? But the specialization should be not because of your desire. It should be based on text, based on another piece of revelation. That's the specialization. And the agreement of all Islamic scholars and dictated by necessity of reason that because the messenger is ordered to do the bayan, the explanation, his also explanation of something to be specific and to be restricted and so on is also accepted, even if it specializes and restricted the ayah of the Quran. And this is not naskh. Naskh is removing the hukum completely. Now, because of this nature of specialization and exception, it is impossible for the general to abrogate the special. It's impossible because they can be combined. And when you say it has abrogated the special, let me give an example. We say, قاتل سبيل الله الذين يقاتلونكم. The only way to abrogate that is to tell, fight in the cause of Allah those who did not start fighting you. Specifically mentioning those who did not start fighting you. Start the fight with everyone else. It must be said explicitly like that. Explicitly. Just a fight with the mushrikeen, all of them, is not enough. Because it could be, understand that with the restriction I mentioned earlier. So it doesn't matter if the general is later or before. The specification overrides the general in any case. The exception overrides the general in any case, provided the exception is well established and can be proven to be well established. So there's no way it can be abrogation. So even if the ayahs in Surah At-Tawbah were general, they would not abrogate that. They would have to be understood under this one. By necessity, have to be understood. Let's apply that in one example. When said about the people of the book, obviously that's a historic context is clear because Surah At-Tawbah is revealed before the Tabuk campaign and after. During that, so in the 9th year, it's one of the latest surahs of the Quran. The campaign was against the Roman Empire, and they were mostly Christian, but some Jews were with them, and there's some pagan nation in the north of Arabia were also allied with the Romans. So all of them are together, but the main focus on the الذين أوتوا الكتاب and the main focus on the Roman Empire. When the Quran says, until they give the jizya. In a situation where they are subdued, okay? Does this exclude, because the Al-Kitab are also a subcategory in matter of the general description with mushrikeen, is also, does this mean that their Islam is not accepted? No. How do we know that? Because the ayah about mushrikeen said the mushrikeen, if they embrace Islam and give up hostility, then it's fine. So, by greater reason, should be Al-Kitab. But I does not mention that. I assume just continue fighting until they give the jizya. When Surah Al-Anfal says if they come to complete peace, what would have been the complete peace with the Roman Empire? The complete peace would have been the same way like Abyssinian. When the Prophet wrote the first letter to Hercules, it had been narrated in various ways and various books. You can find it, but if you put all of them together, he asked him, It's better for you to embrace Islam and give up Trinity and so on, and give up the divinity of Christ. That's included in the letter generally. But the letter ends the following in the narration of Abu Ubaid, in the book about jizya and money and taxes and so on. He says, فإن أبيت, if you don't want to be Islam, no problem. Then let me address the peasants, let me address the peasant, the common people. Let me address the common people. He's a messenger of Allah. He is bringing the message. Address the people. He's arguing you have to establish at least freedom of religion. That's it. Now, Hercules tried to sneak away. First, he sent some gift and say, I cannot embrace Islam. The Roman will kill me, etc. and so on. And the Messenger said, the evil one did not want to give up his kingdom because, if he embraced Islam, his kingdom is gone. Alas, he will be a commoner like anybody else. So he doesn't want to give it up, and he distributed the money. And he sent another letter. Ultimately, he sent people carrying the da'wah, single messengers and ambassadors. They were killed by the vassals of Hercules. Especially the Ghassani, they are Arabs. They are Arab Christian ruling in Damascus. The capital city was Damascus. They were killed by them. So the Messenger of Allah sent the first campaign to punish them for this transgression, under the leadership of his ex-adopted son Zayd ibn Haritha and appointed Zayd ibn Haritha. If Zayd is murdered, then Ja'far should take over, and then Abdullah ibn Rawaha, and that's exactly what has happened. And ultimately, Khalid ibn Walid was able to withdraw the army. That was in the year early 8 or late 7. And then the situation became a situation of war, hostile situation. And also, Heracles started instigating the Persian Empire, with whom they concluded just peace after the long war, which went for almost 20, 30 years, concluded peace to go again back to invade in Arabia, which they have stopped doing. I will mention the Persian again, why we don't find in a seerah story anything with the Persian except much later. I explain it now. And many jihadi and so on do not know that, unfortunately. So he went to the battle campaign to Tabuk. But Heracles chickened out. He was in Homs. Emesa, I think is the Latin name of it, in Homs. He stood there waiting because he knew the Messenger of Allah went all the way to Tabuk. Tabuk is almost near to the end of the desert in Jordan, but there's a good distance in the desert, about 100 kilometers in the desert. But he traveled over 1,000 kilometers towards Hercules. Now Hercules needs to travel only a few hundred kilometers in a good area in which you have food for your horses, you have water and so on. He has a heavy army. The army is very, very heavy. It's a heavy cavalry, very sophisticated army. And Hercules recognized that if I enter the desert, then I am in a perilous situation. He may have 120,000 soldiers, 200,000 sometimes mentioned, but Muhammad has only 30, but he had the superiority of the desert and the experience in the battle with Zayd ibn Haritha, and that's called the Battle of Mu'tah. He experienced how ferocious Muslims are fighting. They were only 3,000 and they faced maybe 80,000 Roman, and they were defeated, the Muslims, yes, and they have many murders, but still the Muslims were able to escape under the leadership of Khalid ibn Walid. And the Romans reported back that these are not humans, these are ghosts. They fight like the devils. We cannot fight them. So he knew it would be a death trap. So he stayed there. The vassal kings in Sinai and in Jordan and so on, they recognized the new master is Muhammad. So they sent delegation to him and made with him peace treaties and conclusions. That's tactics. That's how to wage war the correct way. But that's not our issue today. But the hostilities continued until the death of the Prophet, and the Sahaba started the attack with 4 armies against the Roman Empire and its annexes. Egypt was annexed to the Roman Empire at that time when they get to Sham. So they took Egypt and all North Africa all the way to Tangier in the time of Uthman ibn Affan. What happened to the Persian? The Persian is another story. The Persian, when the Messenger of Allah sent his letter to what's his name, to Kisra, Perviz, the son of Hormuz, he tore the letter And the messenger who see the man becoming angry and tearing the letter, he was really a tyrant, was afraid, and he left. It seems to be Parviz regretted or something, wanted to get the messenger, but the messenger hurried on the back for a fast coming, quicker, back to Rasulullah, said that has happened. So he supplicated against that may Allah tear the kingdom of Kisra in pieces, as he told my letter. Kisra decided to do the following. At that time, all East Arabia was under Persian occupation. The area called now East Saudi Arabia, Al-Ahsa, the Eastern region. The area called now Emirat, Qatar also including. Oman was under Persian occupation. Yemen was under Persian occupation. That is another story we mentioned another day. That's before Islam. They occupied that in a certain situation. So he sent to his local ruler, vassal in Sana'a, Baban, who is a king also, king, but Parviz, son of Hormuz, is the king of kings, Shah and Shah. He sent him a letter, said, arrogantly saying, send 2 strong men with a small force, like a police force, like a squad, to detain this man who claims to be a prophet. And tell me about his situation exactly, or send him to me. So they came, the 4 guys came on the small until they reached Taif, and they asked, they don't know that for them this is the wilderness. And they told, no, he's not here. He's in Medina. And the people of Taif rejoiced. Now Muhammad is having the king of kings fighting against him. We have got rid of Muhammad because they were hostile to Islam to the last day. They came to Medina. The Prophet ﷺ met them and told them and rebuked them and so on. They were terrified. They saw he has no guards and so on. They were terrified about the situation. They saw a situation they don't expect. They expect a gangster or someone at the top of the mountain who is like highway robber or something like that. And they saw well-organized society and so on. So they were terrified. They don't need to be terrified. Go back, come tomorrow. Gabriel told me they should come tomorrow. When they came next day to him, he said, because they called Kisra our Lord, say, my Lord killed your Lord yesterday. His son, Ubad, killed him yesterday. They say, wash your mouth. The king was angry for something less than that. Now you claim the king has been killed by his own son, the king of kings, Shah and Shah. Said, yes. But don't worry. He gave them gifts. He gave one of them a belt made of jewelry, also a gift from some other kings and so on, and gave them and said, go back to Baban. They went back to Baban. They told Baban, that's what the man said. From Medina to there, if you go the faster way, because they know now the way. They went directly as fast as they can and told Baban, he told us that, say, only a prophet can know that. Until now, we don't get any news. Few days later, the news came from the new king, Khabaz, say, I killed my father because he did that to the army. He wasted the treasury. You know how a new king will rebuke the previous king, like Trump saying, Sleepy Joe. he was the violent man. He was this and this and this. But concerning the man my father ordered you to catch and so on, leave him now for the moment. He did not know that already the people were there and so on. Then there were civil wars, almost civil war or fight on the power in Persia. Qubad died after 6 months roughly, or 6 to 8 months. That's all by Roman records. That's not all Islamic records. Roman records died on, there was a plague, a massive plague, and he died in the plague. His son took over, was underage, for only 40 days. At that time, the commander of the Persian imperial army, who initially defeated the Romans, but came to us as like a stalemate, became a friend with Hercules. Hercules instigated him to go and take the power. Better you take the power and we have a good peace together. So he came back and killed that young king, the boy, and appointed himself. But the people did not like him, and the gods killed him in a few days. Back and forth, they appointed the daughter of Kisra, Buran. Buran was a wise woman. If they did not kill her later, as I mentioned in a minute, Buran became the king of kings, and she is aware about the story, obviously, of Muhammad, and she's aware of the news. So we send the messenger. We don't know what she sent to him. We know they sent him gifts, and we know what happened after that by default. There's no narration detailing that. First of all, Baban became Muslim. So Yemen separated from the empire, but there's still Hadramaut, there's still Oman, there's still this. Most likely, she told the Messenger of Allah, my father made a mistake, and I acknowledge that maybe I don't think she embraced Islam, but I acknowledge that we have nothing to do in Arabia, and she would withdraw all the forces from Arabia. All the forces will withdraw. And that's the peace, complete peace. So with the situation with Persia, from the 7th year of Hijrah until early 10th was complete peace. Complete peace and tranquility. Boran did not stay for maybe 10 months and so on. There were a rebellion. Her sister came, but her sister was killed, and they came back to Boran. After that, in the 10th year, at the beginning of the 10th year of Hijrah, there was a dispute in the palace between various factions of the Persian nobility and so on, and Boran got killed, most likely by mistake or something, but she got killed. And the newcomer needed some support, international support for them, because they're fighting with various factions. The one in Madain, near Baghdad now, the city of Madain, Ctesiphon, is now absorbed in Baghdad, essentially, almost absorbed in Baghdad, where the capital of the Persian Empire was situated, having problem with the people in Khorasan, far away in the northeast, and so on. So he needed some support, international support, so they contacted Caesar, Hercules Caesar, and Hercules agreed to give them support. On the 10th, they should reinvade Arabia and support the movement of apostasy. Then the situation of war started. But during that time, from the 7th until the 10th, mid-10th almost, there was no fight with the Persian. And the Prophet was busy then fighting the enemies in South Arabia and so on until he died. There was no campaign in his time going to against Persia because of this reason. So you see, when she came complete peace, everything was tranquil, but it was complete peace was that withdraw from Arabia completely. We have no interest in Arabia. Withdraw. The example of Abyssinia is also clear. It's clear. There was never any conflict with Abyssinia. Najashi became a Muslim in his personal as a person, but he never enforced Islam on the people, nor the one following him, who seems to be state Christian, never oppressed the Muslims in his domain. Both the one who immigrated from Arabia and the one who genuinely from Abyssinia. And Islam grew steadily and slowly in Abyssinia for centuries. And the relation between the Islamic State, the Medina State, and later on the one in Damascus, that was interesting us in the time of the Prophet and the time of Khulafa al-Rashidin, because this is the model time. They have complete peace and excellent relation with Abyssinia. So you see, that was what caused these wars in the time of the Prophet, and they have a research about that. We'll complete it soon and we'll translate it, which clarify all of these things. So to start with, level 0, the messenger came and was with peace with all the world, and he was ordered not to fight anybody. He was ordered peace, with the exception of self-defense. That's a fundamental principle. Nobody denied it in all revealed religion and all regular religion. If someone attack you, a highway robber attack you with weapons, then you have the right to defend yourself with weapons, even if it results in his killing. That's not waging war. That's self-defense. If necessary, but up to killing the one who is attacking. That's not the issue. But the issue is you're organizing armies, having a banner, send battle campaigns. That's military operations. That's the issue at hand. Prohibited. Don't touch. Don't even dare doing that. Then it was permitted against Quraysh. And the Quran justified that at length. Then an order came to fight all who has started that aggression. And this was never abrogated, and that's the case until Yawm al-Qiyamah. The only thing is that who started aggression was the meaning of peace. And also in Anfal, it's clear, even though who started aggression, if they go to peace, silm, real peace, full peace, then accept. Even if you're thinking they are playing tricks and they intend later to break the peace. Even if that. Trust in Allah, accept it. Because their evil plot, what their in heart, will be exposed and they will be ultimately defeated. So that's the situation with this. But you have to look to the history. You have to look and the normative time. The normative time is the time from revelation, when the revelation started to Muhammad ﷺ, until he died. That's the normative time of revelation. And the revelation we have, as we prove in the book of Tawheed, for listeners who are interested in that, in the book of Tawheed, which is available, I think that's volume 1, 2, 3. We have 4 volumes now already in Amazon. The first 3 are already available as PDF for free. If you are stingy or have the money and don't want to help the term, because the one posted them there is the translators, and they did a enormous effort, so they deserve some compensation. So we agreed that they will get the compensation fully for them. I'm not getting anything from that. And then after 1 year, but you told you after 1 year, allow the PDF to be available for free. And that's what happened for volume 1, 2, 3. I think 4 is still maybe still 8 months to go, or 1 year. No rush.
Yes, it's the physical copy is available. Just another.
The printed is available for money. That's clear. The 4.
Yeah, this time next year. It's just been released
around Christmas next year. It will become free. The 4th, but the 4th one is another issues. The issues of usul and abrogation are in the first 3 volumes. So you can have the PDF free if you cannot afford the printed version from Amazon, or if you are stingy. Okay, so that's it. So that. This way, you see, this is the normative time, and in that we prove that there's the only revelation there is the Quran itself and the Sunnah. Obviously, the Sunnah is narrated differently than the Quran, and there may be some weak hadith fabricated, but if you scrutinize it properly and do the job properly, you can single out at least the multiply corroborated evidences, like the one about what I mentioned, that when the Messenger of Allah sent the Badr campaign, starting with the one headed by Zayd ibn Haritha and Ja'far ibn Abi Talib and Abdullah ibn Rawaha and so on. He ordered them, that's the first occasion possibly, or one of the occasions, and he ordered them fight in the case of Allah, the enemies of Allah, who are your enemy also, your enemy meaning they have started the fight. And don't kill any children, don't kill monks, don't cut a tree, don't kill an animal except to eat it, if you have a necessity to eat it, etc., etc. And when you meet the enemy, then don't start a fight. Give them an opportunity of some further negotiation. Option 1, invite them to Islam and tell them if they accept Islam, they will become our brothers and so on. If they accept that, and they know Islam entails at least Salah and Zakah, at least, as I mentioned, I think it's recited in the Hadith, if I remember now at the moment. And they said it come from 6 channels, not only this one channel. This one channel I mentioned in the battle campaign of Mu'tah. Before the battle campaign, before they left for Mu'tah, narrated by Zayd ibn Arqam, who was in the battle campaign as a young man. If they accept, then suggest to them to join the Islamic State. That's expressed in that language as hijrah, immigrate. Doesn't mean that you come physically to Medina. Medina comes to accommodate for all the people. It's clear. But join the Islamic State as a unit, as a single entity, as a member state. If they don't want, tell them fine, you can say separate, applying Islam by yourself, but don't expect us to give you anything from the treasury, our treasury, in the Islamic State and the federal treasury, unless you participate in battle or you have a reason to receive money from us. Otherwise, you finance yourself, you have your zakah, you have your taxes, you do whatever you want. That's in your domain. And if you refuse that, tell them, okay, there's another option. End the war and accept to be in alliance with the Islamic State. Alliance meaning you had never wage war, and keep an entity if you are an entity, because we're talking about entities now, not about single persons, entities. But it applies also for a single person. But let's talk about entities. You remain as an entity. Your domain is not an Islamic domain, it's a kufr domain. You do in your domain whatever you want, with one exception, which mentioned in another treaty, is that prohibition of usury. So banking will not be allowed there. That's the only one, nothing else there. You have your religion, you have your ceremonies, you can go naked in the street, to do whatever you want there, provided you don't wage war against anybody except with our permission, and you are not forced to defend yourself. We will defend you. For this defense, we have this tax, Jizya. The jizya is a tax. It's one of the taxes. There's even an option later. Some Arab tribes did not like the word jizya. They regarded as the meaning, and they said we pay zakat instead. And the ruler said, no problem, pay zakat. It's a tax. It's a protection tax. And it's not even obligatory. They don't need to pay except by agreement. And the amount is not fixed. Generally, it is one dinar for each man who has achieved manhood. Women are accepted because usually women are not working generally. Children are accepted. Also, monks and churches and so on are accepted, and so on.
Exempted, you mean, yeah?
Exempted, yeah, exempted.
So, how much is a dinar by today's
$1
standards?
dinar for each man, but it doesn't need to be like that. For example, in the Najran Treaty, in which usually was mentioned as being prohibited, in the Najran Treaty, he estimated the number of the people and roughly how it is, and then it was classified as, because the Najrani seem to be having major production of fabrics. Clothing stuff. Hulla is 2 pieces of clothing, so you can have a top part and bottom part. And those, I think, 1,000 something hulla per year to be divided in two parts in the year, 2 portions, every 6 months or every 4 months, 8 months, something like that. This is the Najran Treaty. That's it. And then, if they refuse that, then they are fight. Then they will be fought. And if the people are in a fortification and the fortification is impossible to take, then you may make with them a certain agreement, and you have to abide by that agreement. What to do with them, what to do with their possession, what to do, how to split the land, how to that according to agreement. The agreement is quite free, with the only condition Allah said, then make, if they want to make a covenant with them, a certain agreement, that's no problem. So they keep the fortification and so on. And you agree with that, with the certain conditions, but don't give the covenant of Allah and His Messenger. Just give the covenant of you and your people, because if it happens that you break that covenant, then it is very grave, but it's not as grave as breaking that. So in the covenant, it should not say, I give you the covenant of Allah and His Messenger. Say, we give you our covenant and in the name of Allah and His Messenger, yes, but not the covenant of Allah and His Messenger, because you are not allowed to make a covenant in behalf of Allah and His Messenger, but on behalf of yours, on your own responsibility. And this is breaking covenant is a major crime anyway. But breaking the covenant which is you made in behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger is a super crime. That's the hadith I mentioned from 6 channels, multiply corroborated. So the issue is not as these people think, and unfortunately as many so-called Muslim scholars think. And this was the situation in the time of Khulafa al-Rashidin. So this is the normative time. Because Khulafa al-Rashidin never violated anything that to any greater substance. No, I don't think there was any violation. For example, let me give you some few neat stories. There was a village on the border with the Romans in time of Umar, because the Romans were expelled yearly to Anatolia, to current Turkey, essentially. And they were a village on the border, which was conquered by Muslims, but they were close to the Persian. It's a small village, or a small town, if you wish to say, maybe 1,000 people or something like that. And I think they were Christian, most likely, because that area is all Christian at that time. We're talking about the year 640, something like that. Common era, Anno Domini. And then the commander of that area in Sham, because it was divided in various commands, was not one command. Later on, it was joined under one governor. But a complaint to Umar that these people, we hear rumors and information that they are communicating with the Romans and giving them our secrets, and also sometimes they come and give us the secrets of the Romans. So they're playing double agents. They are not clean people. What should I do with them? Umar said, according to what you tell me, the information, it seems to be it's true what you are saying, but this is not enough to do it to them. Regard them as a covenant breaker and try to them as warrior, which should be executing the fighter and taking the women and children as at the time the law of the world, they're taken into captivity in slavery. No, that's not the way. Make them the following offer. That's Umar, the tough one, the usually regarded as the harsh one, the Khulafa al-Rashidin. Give them the following. Say, listen, we know that your heart is more with the Romans than with us. Fine, no problem. follow your heart. Why don't you move from here, leave that village, and we compensate you for every house. We give you we estimate the price. They have people in real estate who can estimate. We give you the price of 2 houses. For each cow you leave here, because it's difficult to take cows and agriculture. For each agricultural land, we give you double price. For each cow you cannot take with you, because you cannot talk to the heads and so on. We keep the cow, we give you 2 cows, price of 2 cows. And the people were jubilant. That's great. And then you go deep in the Roman area, and you don't need to play that game of swaying back and forth and so on. And that's exactly what had happened. And the village was leveled, or occupied by Muslims. I don't know what has happened. I think it was leveled, because there was not enough Muslims to occupy that, so it was leveled. And this sore point was resolved. So that's the way things were treated. The same when a Muslim conquered Damascus. They conquered, the patriarch or the ruler of Damascus, who is a patriarch at the same time, I think he's also the church leader, the bishop, seemed to be. Maybe he's a civil governor. I don't know what the structure at that time was. He saw that the city from one side, from east side, has been already penetrated, and the fight was going street to street. So he went quickly to the other side, the side where Khalid ibn Walid is coming. He went to the other side where Abu Ubaidah is still sieging, and made with him a covenant. That I hand over the city on these conditions. We keep our religion, we keep our churches, we keep, etc. Fine. And then Abu Ubaidah entered peacefully. They met almost midtown at the cathedral. Khalid was in the middle of the cathedral, not outside, not in the other side, in mid cathedral. And he met Abu Ubaidah. Abu Ubaidah said, made a covenant, stop here. Khalid said, I have no idea. He did not contact me. This man is sneaky. Abu Ubaidah said, sneaky or not sneaky, it doesn't. The covenant is being made. So how to solve this dilemma? So they decided to divide the city, including the cathedral. They took half of the cathedral, and half of the cathedral, the half from the side of Khalid, which was conquered, was converted for some time into a mosque. And there was not even curtain. The Muslims were doing their Jum'ah, and you can look at the Christian on their chairs doing their Salah, and vice versa. For many years. Until Walid ibn al-Malik came and said that's not good, and then he expelled the Christian from their part there and converted into a mosque by force, violating the treaty. That's about, that was in time of Umar. This happened just at the end of the life of Abu Bakr, in the time of Umar, beginning of time of Umar. So the year 15, and Walid ibn Abdul Malik was in the year 85. So 70 years later, he did this criminal act. But they couldn't do anything. He's the king, essentially, he's Khalifa, nominally, he's a king, he's a tyrannical king, very nasty, very bloody. So they couldn't do anything. When Umar ibn Aziz came, a just ruler, and he couldn't do in the time of his brother Salman ibn Abd Sulaiman ibn Abd Malik. When Umar ibn Aziz came, they saw this is a just ruler, they complained to him. Retain us to half the church. So guys faced this there and say, listen, demolishing the masjid now and retaining half of the church is not practical. There were areas outside Damascus, about 20 villages were conquered by force. And was the churches were converted in the masajid there. We return you these 20 masajid to you to turn it back into churches instead of this half. They discussed with themselves, this is better gain than this half. What do we want with this half? So they took that. So he corrected it, but by a compromise, because it was not feasible to do it. But the act of Al-Malik is against the Islamic law. He's a criminal act. But he's a criminal anyway. He and his father are criminals anyway. That he's a caliph and head of the Islamic State does not mean he's a good man. He's an evil. He's a satanic man. This guy. And his father is even worse. Al-Malik ibn Marwan. So that show you how the things were done. And that's the reason that Christians are there living until now. And that's the reason the Jews in Yemen, by the way, Jews until now, they're still Jews, although some of them have been enticed by Israel and immigrated Israel, but there's still many of them until now. They have complete villages and live in peace since the time of the Queen of Sheba, time of King Solomon, alayhi salam. Yeah. They're living there still. There's nobody oppressing anybody or forcing on with his religion. So this is the whole picture presented, uses sometimes maybe later conquests as a justification, so-called conquest. But let us see what happened. The whole Islamic, real, genuine Islamic conquest was done in the time of Uthman. Ali did not have an opportunity because Muawiyah, the evil Muawiyah, got him busy in the civil war. So at that time, all the Persian Empire was gone and up to its border to Sindh, India, and the Sindh area, which is current Pakistan. But Afghanistan was part of the Persian Empire. It was absorbed, and borders all the way into Turkic areas up to that area. And then all the Levant and Iraq, all the Arab Peninsula is clearly there, and all the north of Africa up to Tanja was in time of Uthman. Don't believe the other stories. We have the evidences available. We have it in our books. So later on, the Umayyad did not very much of things. The people here, they do great conquest for Islam, nothing. There was some incursion in Anatolia. There was some skirmishes with the Persian, with the Roman, later called Byzantine Empire. At the time, they were called Roman. The word Byzantine was not used. It was used much later. With the Eastern Roman Empire, there was incursion, but nothing of significance. The only thing of significance which people sometimes mention and call it as Islamic conquest is the following: the conquest of Sindh and the attempt to conquer China in the time of Hajjaj. That's also an evil general and governor of Iraq under Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the evil Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And this is not an Islamic conquest. This is an aggression from Bani Umayyah, because there was a rebellion against Al-Hajjaj, against Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and they were able to put down the rebellion called the Jamajim, and the Battle of Jamajim. But it's not only one battle, it's 80 battles, but ended with the defeat of the revolutionary. So some of the revolutionary escaped to Sindh, having asylum there, and some escaped to China or something like that. So this guy sent 2 battle campaigns. I asked the guys there, give me extradite those guys. They told him, no, they are having asylum here. How can we extradite them? So he started battle campaign against them. This is an aggression. This is not an Islamic conquest. Disregard what the history books claim, especially modern history books written by Arab nationalists and so on. It's not an Islamic conquest. What's about Andalusia? Andalusia is also not an Islamic conquest. It's at best an Umayyad conquest, because it was on behest of some rulers there who have some grievance and problems, both religious and maybe issue of state management and issue of maybe attacking their own women and things like that, by Rodriguez, the king of Vandals. And then they contacted the governor in the far west, near Gibraltar, Jabal Tariq bin Ziyad, and negotiated with him, what's about if you come across and we fight together against this king and divide the kingdom between us. This is the way European conquest and kings manage the situation in Europe. And Tariq bin Ziyad regarded that as a great opportunity. Maybe he thinks it's an Islamic conquest, maybe not. But anyway, he went over, and then this exactly happened. This was split. And Bani Umayyah conquered various parts there. And so it's an Umayyad conquest, not an Islamic conquest. So that's what has happened. Uthmani fights, some of them may be probable conquest, some of the Islamic conquest, some of them not. I have to study each one, see what's the motivation and so on. But that's it. But the normative time is clear, the time of Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa Rashidin, until Ali ibn Abi Talib and Al-Hasan ibn Ali. That's the normative time concerning war and peace, because that was applied in the time of Khulafa Rashidin, almost nearly perfect. But the time of what is the normative one? That is where the law has to be deduced from the action and statement of the Messenger of Allah. So let's clarify this point. I think it's a point in which I have to admit that Islamic scholarship, in part, is also guilty. Taking ayahs and verses out of context is very common, and also mistakes in matter of abrogation. Unfortunately, one of the great scholars of Islam, Ibn Hazm, is very easy with abrogation, but which is a major philosophical blunder, because the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must be all brought to work together as much as we can. If it's established from Allah, if it's not from Allah, it's something else. But if it's established from Allah, then they must be all applied. The only way to apply them is that General will be restricted by the restriction or by the or by the specialization, by the exception. And then the general, if there's an exception, like for example, very common people say he's a kafir, his blood can be shed. That's wrong, because shedding blood needs an authority, a specific authority. What's the evidence? Even already in the Mecca Quran, also Medina Quran, it's clearly that one of the major sins which mentioned in the Quran in many places, besides associating partner with Allah, is shedding blood, killing, murdering the souls which Allah has prohibited. All souls are prohibited, human souls, or even possibly animal souls are prohibited, illa bil haqq, except by justified reason of the law. Meaning, killing is only have to have, for each killing, each type of killing, you have to have an authority. And the mere kufr is not a reason for killing. The mere apostasy is not a reason for killing. But waging war, aggression, is a reason for killing, and so on. But this has to be obviously fleshed out in more details, but this is a general principle. Otherwise, the only way to abrogate something like that is you are allowed to shed blood without haqq, which is impossible. So it can't be abrogated. That's one of the principles, can't be abrogated. Can't be abrogated. So if you take that things in the proper way, with the proper usuli and the proper fundamental vision of how the revelation works, but by the way, this does not apply only to the Islamic revelation, applies only to previous revelation. You have to synchronize them. Unfortunately, for previous revelation, it is impossible to do, because what we have in our hands, allegedly being inspired, is clearly contaminated. Considerable part have been missed, declared to be apocrypha or pseudo-epigraphica, and most of it is lost anyway. From these so-called apocrypha, the hidden books, apocrypha mean hidden. The hidden books, the majority are gone. Few are remaining, found sometimes in graves, sometimes in caves, things like that, but barely anything remaining. And they should have been. And some of these hidden books that contain historic facts, contain statements of prophets and so on of importance. It's not available in our hand. And what's available in our hand is definitely contaminated and messed up. Clearly, with necessity of reason. So, but still, if we go with the general thread in these books, what is the essential prohibition, etc., then you have to combine many places until you have the complete picture, even in these books, even after contamination. But we don't need that for Quran. Quran is here, uncontaminated, established as it is, with carbon dating and other multiple corroborating narrations and copies all over the horizon, going all the way time to the prophetic time itself. So that settles the issue. But as I said, we have to admit that the Islamic scholarship is having also a deficiency in that.
I mean,
so we cannot blame the Islamophobes alone, but it's clearly, in some situation, it's clearly done with bad intention.
Yeah, I mean, in this instance, either it's uninformed, but the fact that, for example, so just for the sake of completion, I'll read the other ayahs, and you've already prefixed the fact that this is in reference to Badr anyway for Surah 8. I'm just going to read it for the sake of covering all bases. So number 65, if urged the believers to fight, if there are 20 of you who are patient in hard times, they will overcome 200. If there are 100 of you, they will overcome 1,000. For the unbelievers are prepared people who don't comprehend. Yeah. Those who fight you, ultimately, it's prefixed with that.
Sure. Yeah.
And the next one, 67, it's not for
right. General rule that this rule regulates that you are supposed, initially, that the initial command is that you're supposed to fight at a tenfold force than yours. You're not allowed to run away. But then an easement came, say, okay, up to double. Up to double. If it is less than double, then you are obliged to stand. If it's more than double, then you are obliged to see the fighting or retreat or run away or something like that. There's scholarly discussion about that, isn't very much there. But they say, whom we are fighting, it doesn't mention how we are fighting, legitimate or illegitimately. But if it's a legitimate fight, then you are obliged to stand firm if they are less than double of you. Or less, obviously, that's concerning the numbers, but you have also to equate the forces, to equate the tanks, to equate the horses, all of these things.
And the next verse's reference is 67. It is not right for a prophet to take prisoners of war before he has conquered the land. You people desire the temporary gains of this world, but God desires for you for the good of the life
That's
to come.
rebuking them for taking prisoners in Badr, because before that there was a revelation saying if you meet the disbeliever in the battle, yeah, لقيت والذي كفروا فضرب الرقاب, strike their neck until you have أثخنتموهم. إثخان meaning not conquer the land, it's massacre, until you have hit them so severely that they are really broken, and they will be most likely, or according the best probability, according to the judgment of people who are specialists in warfare and psychology of nation and so on. In every nation, every situation, there will be specialized people tell you this is enough إثخان. Until إثخان, then فشدوا الوثاق. Then you can take prisoners, and after that, either you exchange them for money or you let them go for free. That's the ayah in Surah Muhammad. إذا لقيتم الذين كفروا فضرب الرقاب حتى إذا أثخنتموهم فشدوا الوثاق فإما منا بعد وما فداء حتى تضع الحرب أوزارها, until the war is finished. So, and then in Badr, maybe there's an interesting story also for the listener. Many people do not know that. The Prophet asked them what the advice about to do with the prisoners. Various advisors came. Some people they are ultimately our cousins from our own tribe. Maybe they will be guided to Islam. Some people say that sincerely because they have this good intention. But the majority who suggested we should exchange them, they do not give the Prophet the correct advice. The Prophet ﷺ is not a warrior. He was never engaged in considerable warfare. He was a shepherd, and then he was doing a bit small business for his wife. That's all. Otherwise, that's all. His life is a very simple life. But the people of Medina were just engaged a few years ago in a civil war, a devastating civil war, almost got them annihilated. So their experiences with warfare, what mean annihilation, what mean almost breaking a tribe. So the question was directed to them is it Ithkhan? Because the ayah of Ithkhan must have come before by necessity. And then they gave the wrong advice deliberately because they wanted the what they call it, the ransom. They wanted to set them for money free. Okay, we'll let you go, but each one based, I think the money agreed was 100 dinar. 100 dinar is substantial sum at that time. It's a wealth. And they thought 70, we'll get 7,000 dinar. Yeah, 7,000 dinar is a substantial amount. Cannot be underestimated. So they did not give the sincere advice in the sense that, yeah, we have done a sufficient Ithkhan, they are broken now. The Qurayshi army was about 1,000 plus 1,000. Let's say 1,000 plus maybe 100 or something. 70 were killed, 7%. And 70 were captured, that's 7%. I guess, I'm not a warrior, I'm not a specialist war. If you fight an army and they lose only 14% between killed and prisoners of war and etc., then I wouldn't say that they are smashed completely. But if you get 40, 50, 60%, they are smashed. They will think twice to continue hostility. And the history has shown that the Qurayshi felt sufficiently strong after that and attacked several times up to Khandaq, when they were ultimately then started their general retreat and defeat. So they didn't give the correct advice. So Allah has rebuked them. You do not advise your messenger correctly. Because he asks you, but most likely, the ayah does not say clearly, because it is not befitting for a messenger to have prisoners of war until he has Ithkhan. But that's usually in the first battle. If you do Ithkhan in the first battle, then the enemy, the hostile enemy who are supposed to fight, and for whom Allah gave you lessons to fight, or who started the hostility and oppression, is then after that sufficiently broken that you have peace for a longer time. You have security for a longer time. That's the wise management of warfare. That's the way warfare should be made. But you did not give the correct advice to your messenger, and Allah rebuked them for that, and He gave them, but actually they were punished for that, but that's not a situation. That's not a place to this. It's an appendix in our book of Tawheed. Unfortunately, the translator decided it's a technical topic. It was like an appended appendix to one chapter, and they say this is too technical. The Western reader will not be interested to read it, so they don't translate it. But it's in the Arabic one. With the is a section called عُوقِبُوا بِمَا صَنَعُوا يَوْمَ بَدْرٍ. They have been punished for their doing in Badr. That's they have been punished. The punishment came in Uhud. 70 were martyred instead of 70 who shall be released there for the Muslims. But that is another story. So this is the revocation for that. Messenger should not, especially for his first battle, he should do such a massacre. He should do such a severe harm to the army, so that they will think twice, 10 times before thinking re-attacking again. And especially if you are soft, the way the people were in Badr, not motivated by warfare and analysis of warfare and psychology of Quraysh. Because Quraysh, after being 70 killed and 70 taken into imprisonment, the Quraysh army ran away and went back to Mecca. But when they got the 70 back, that encouraged them. Oh, the Muslims are soft, we may try again. But if they knew that the 70 have been killed and the Muslims were not even willing to, because the prisoners said, we ransom ourselves. Because they no. At the time, by the way, the law of war is that the prisoner, you can kill the prisoner of war at liberty. That's the law of war. Until Second World War. That was the law of war, by the way. So they don't come with this nonsense. That's the law of war. That's an international agreement. You can't kill the prisoners of war unless he gives him allow himself to be imprisoned with a covenant that I will have security. I will lift the white flag under the condition that I am not touched. I'm let to go. Yes. If you give security, that's something else. But if you take a prisoner of war where you are overwhelming him and you bind him down, that's not this one is being overwhelmed. He did not have a security agreement with you. Even as a single person, you can't have a security. Like, for example, scholar the scatterology situation. You assume in a battle situation, you are engaged in battle with someone and attacking him with a sword. If you tell him, put your sword, and he put it down on the earth, then khalas, war between this species is ended, and he cannot be killed. Why? Because put your sword, meaning if you put your sword, you are safe. That's a covenant. It's binding. Even that. Discussed by scholars. So it is not that hocus pocus and just mix things and put a salad. And the salad they produce this way is even undigestible. Usually a good salad is digestible and tasty. This is not even tasty.
Yeah, this is the way the MO. Just once, there's another statement. So after the verses, then there's some hadith as well, which we can go into. So this is the statement that she makes, which is, in fact, this whole Surah 8 and 9, Anfal and Tawbah, are about fighting and killing the unbelievers. This is real Islam, as seen in ISIS and Hamas and all Islamic terrorist groups.
Oh, which is
a meaningless statement. So just for the record, this is, you read the context for yourself. This is meaningless. As for ISIS, they are scum. They take things out of context, and let's be honest, they are run by most likely by the CIA and Mossad anyway, because so via Saudi intelligence, whatever backdoors they have.
Their understanding is upside down, and most killing they are doing is doing to Muslims, by the way.
And Hamas, they're fighting a defensive war, according to your
Hamas is justified. Hamas is fighting an occupation force according to the United Nations and the International Court of Justice.
Yeah, according to your own international law.
Yeah.
And moreover, they have never done anything outside. So this entire Zionist ploy to put everyone in the same bucket, it's not happening. They're trying to blame Hamas for things like take Bondi Beach. That was ISIS, which is your own creation anyway.
And even a recent information, but it's not 100% confirmed. It seems to be these guys have false IDs and so on. They are Indians from an extreme Hindu sect. What their motivation is not yet well known, but this indicates strongly, if they from such an extreme Hindu sect, it indicates very strongly that they may be remotely controlled by, even stronger than ISIS, remotely controlled by Mossad and MI6. This smells for Mossad and MI6.
Yeah, I mean, irrespective. I mean, for a Hindu to give up his life is less likely because what they're dying for. Well,
We don't know. Well, there's an extreme group which may have certain extremity. We'll wait for the
Yeah,
details.
and from Islamic law, a person who's a citizen of a country anyway, we already have. You cannot raise arms against them. You cannot fight their citizens. What happened in Bondi Beach is prohibited because the people of Australia have a covenant. The Muslims in Australia have a covenant. You kufa aidukum. You're not allowed to raise arms against them,
Yeah,
against the
yeah.
citizens of that state. So,
Actually, the one who saved the day was a Muslim from Syria. Anyway, after that.
also another thing. Let me just explain something. Sorry, I'm just going to go on a little segue. You can't get our people to coordinate to park in a mosque properly. So if Islamophobes think this is part of a massive campaign Muslims are doing to Islamists to take over the West, and we're hiding all this stuff, we're not that sophisticated. Mossad can pull off a pager attack. You go to your Arankin file, we have many numbers for us to even coordinate a meeting for a kebab. You can't even do that properly. So this entire worldview that the Islamophobes have is, we're part of a campaign where they now what they start to do is we're occupiers. Okay, that's so when my mom and dad came over in the 60s, they were occupiers. I must, did they have M16s? AR-15s? Well, no, they came
Absolutely
over.
not occupied is what
They worked in Birmingham. My dad worked in Birmingham in a
the
factory.
one who occupied. I tell you what happened. The one who acquired India. That's the British Empire acquired India, and actually it started with the East India Company, but later in the rebellion of 1857, 56, 57, 58. India was then added to the empire, and Queen Victoria was called Empress of India, so it was part of the empire. And then during that time and before even, they transferred many people from the subcontinent, both Bangladesh, current Pakistan, and India, and even Sri Lanka, to Mauritius, to Africa for various work and so on. Then when the liberation came in Africa, whatever liberation, quote unquote, happened, some of the new governments, not really understanding history correctly and not valuing that these people are part of the nation now, and they could contribute something beneficial to trade, to business, like Idi Amin, for example. A stupid boxer, I think, it's a stupid guy. This guy expelled the Asian from his country. And then because that country was acquired by the British, and they are supposed at the time they were more or less British subjects. So where to go? They go to Britain because they have no relation anymore with any entity in India or in the subcontinent. So they came to Britain. So the empire has to take them. This is the legacy of the empire. So you are the cause of that. Others, they needed working class people for the lower level and dirty work. So where to import them? From India, Pakistan, and so on, and from Africa. That's where they got it. That's it. But independent of that, this had nothing to do with Islam or non-Islam. But the problem is that now there's a campaign. There was a campaign going since the establishment of this cancerous entity, satanic entity called Israel, to depict the Jews as the victim, etc. All of these things, and give them a nice image in the West. That image is wrong from day one, by the way. It's not recently. If you see many American commentators, they think it's only the last 30 years. It's only Netanyahu. It's not true. It's from the beginning. Even the Zionist movement, before Palestine fell under the control of the British Empire after the First World War, before that they were working in that direction. And then when the British came, according to the Balfour premise, and there was deep motivation for Lloyd George. Lloyd George, by the way, he's the Labour Party, the Prime Minister at that time, but he deep inside, he was a Zionist evangelical Christian. Yeah, he's a very one of these extreme evangelists who thinks the Jews must be in Palestine so that Christ can come. So he wanted to.
And he was anti-Semitic. He was actual anti-Semitic because he.
Yeah, actually.
Jews were
when Christ come, he will slaughter them. That's that. And also Balfour himself, by the way, was a prime minister in the early of the century, I think 1902 or 3 and so on. And there was a serious discussion in his cabinet, and he said, "Is there any way we can repeat what King John 800 years ago or 700 years ago did? King John is the one who expelled the Jews from the British Isles. And they came back only after Cromwell because he was forced to borrow money. And they said, okay, we give you money, but you allow us back to England. So England was Jew clean from 12 something, the time of King John, until there's King John of the Magna Carta, by the way, the brother of Richard the Lionheart, until Cromwell in 1640 or something like that. Imagine, 4 centuries almost, no Jew in the British Isles. So is there any way? So this is not possible now. We are in the 20th century, the 19th century, the century of secularism, of nation states, nationalities, and so on. We cannot do that. So I said, we have to find some way to get rid of them. So when that occasion came with Lloyd George, who want to have the Jews in Palestine, so Christ can be, the coming of Christ can be accelerated, he was jubilant. And he was happy to issue the Balfour Declaration.
So message to Islamophobes. What's that phrase? People in glass houses shouldn't sow stones. Istanbul was 1/3 Jewish after the Spanish Inquisition because they took in the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So, just if we were that efficient, ethnic.
And they should be ashamed of themselves. For example, they were hammering around and blubbering about Hagia Sophia and so on, conversion and so on. Hagia Sophia was bought legitimately from the what they call it in the Eastern Church. They call him Patriarch. They call it Patriarch. They don't call him Pope of the Eastern Church. He bought it with money, with a price which is double the price of that time. And all the pictures and so on were covered nicely with boards and so on. You can see them now. Were not mutilated, and the underground chambers were left as they are out of respect of the tradition there by Muhammad al-Fatih, by Muhammad the Conqueror. So it's bought and say, taken, they converted it by force. No conversion, it's bought. And decided by a court of law, a secular court of law of Turkey. It's finished, it's gone. And before that, who defiled Hagia Sophia? The Crusaders. In the Crusades, I don't think it's the first, the second one. Anyway, in one of their campaigns, the ruler of Constantinople, at that time it was not called Istanbul yet, Constantinople, they invited them in thinking these are our Christian brothers. But these were full, their mind was full of that these, the people of Constantinople, the people of the East Church are heretics. So they rampaged in the city and they caused such a harm. Many historians believe that the fall of Constantinople later is because of the harm done by these guys. And one of the things they did to Hagia Sophia, that's in Western books, that's not an Islamic narrative. We have no narrative in that direction at all. We don't know what has happened there. That's their own books narrating. And someone published that in the internet a few years ago, and a picture of that page. They got a prostitute from Paris. Central Paris has prostitution since long time. To dance on the altar. Western Christian defile church, which is supposed to be the name of Christ, and have crosses all over the place by having a prostitute dancing on the altar. So we don't want to open these chapters. It's not good. It's really not good.
Glass houses throwing stones. Okay, just to continue, just for the sake of completion. So then the person said, read Sahih Bukhari 392, which is narrated by Anas bin Malik. أمرت أن
أقاتل الناس حتى يشهدوا لا إله إلا الله أن محمد رسول الله. Yes, that's a general. Yeah.
I have been ordered to fight those people till they say none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and if they say so, pray like our prayers, face our Qibla and slaughter as we slaughter, then their blood and property will be sacred to us, and we will not interfere with them except legally, and through their reckoning will be with Allah.
Okay, that's general. He doesn't say which nas, the one who fight me. I clarify that. And fight until what? Until they embrace Islam. This hadith say embrace Islam. The ayah about Ahl Kitab says clearly, and which is even later, until they give the Jizya. And I and Surah Al-Anfal say until they go back to complete peace and cease fighting. So you have to put all of them together. If that's an authentic hadith of the Prophet, then it has to be joined with the revelation together. Otherwise, we are playing games with the revelation. That's the way to understand the revelation.
The other hadith The other hadith she cited is Bukhari 6924. When the Prophet ﷺ died and Abu Bakr became his successor and some of the Arabs reverted to disbelief, Umar said, "Oh Abu Bakr, how can you fight these people? Although Allah's messenger said, I have been ordered to fight the people till they say, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah. And whoever said, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, Allah will save his property and his life from me unless he does something for which he receives legal punishment. Justly, and his account will be of Allah." Abu Bakr said, "By Allah, I will fight whoever differentiates between prayer and zakat, as zakat is the right to be taken
That's something
from."
that has nothing to do with fighting enemies and not enemy. That was
Okay.
the dispute. Can the people by force not pay the zakat to the head of the state? No, they can't by force. The only way to do that, if any, is to separate as another entity by negotiation. That's it. Simple. That has nothing to do with fighting the people and so on. The issue is separating between salah and zakah. Omar
Yeah.
arguing they are
the
still
reason that-
praying. Omar arguing they're still praying. Why should you fight them? It's not people who got out of Islam or became kafir. No, they're discussing about specific people who denied giving the zakah.
Okay, so the context of this is at the end. So she also quotes Sahih Muslim 22, which says something similar about paying the zakat. It says, "Zakat, jizya isn't zakat. Zakat is Muslims' fundamental rights each year to give to poor Muslims, not to unbelievers. Jizya, now this is her qualm, is a penalty tax for Jews and Christians to pay Muhammad. Muhammad alayhi
No,
salam,
this is,
for
we
their
discussed the
protection
jizya already.
against the Muslim, against not to kill them. These are two different things.
No, we discussed that already.
If I could just read it, just to get the hype.
No need. It's clear what she wants. It's not. We already answered that. Already answered that. We don't need to answer every point and every repetitious way. It's clearly not the issue.
So she's trying to equate jizya and mafia gangs. Join me or die or pay for protection. That's jizya.
It's clearly because she's hostile. It's clearly, but we already answered that. We don't need to every hostile statement to go into the details of the hostile statement.
And the final ayat, which was from Surah Al-Tawbah, is right at the end. She said, "He has sent a messenger with the guidance and true faith that he may extol it above all religion, no matter how much the idolaters hate it."
Yeah, and it has happened. It become dominant of all religions, dominant by argument, and dominant by defeating those who fight against the religion and smashing them down as they deserve. If they have not, look at Abyssinia. Look at Abyssinia. No conquest, no warfare for centuries. And Islam was growing there steadily and naturally. Look at Indonesia. Islam became dominant. And the biggest advance of Islam happened under, I think, the rule of the Netherlands, the Hollandish. Yeah, I think. But started earlier. And despite these, the rulers, although the people of Holland are interested really in business and money, they're interested in religion most likely, but you expect them to be supporting Christianity there. Christianity is tiny, maybe 10, 20 millions out of three. How much is in these 340? 340 millions or 240. It's a huge country. I think 340.
Which is Islanders, you mean? Islanders, which is Hollanders. You said, what's Hollanders?
No. The Netherlands. It was occupied by Holland.
I see.
The poor Irish were occupied. They never occupied anybody. So it became dominant. It's dominant also in argument and in philosophical discourse, and it's dominant culturally. But has nothing to يظهر على الدين كله. The same Quran says about Isa ibn Maryam when he said, "Hawariyin, who will support me and my call to Allah?" I say, "We will support you." Allah said then, فآمن الطائفة من بني إسرائيل وكفر الطائفة فأيدنا الذين آمنوا على عدوهم فأصبحوا ظالمين. We supported believers against the disbeliever, so they became dominant. They became apparent. They were above. How this happened? You check history. After the ascension of Isa, the number of believers expanded, as if you find in Acts. 3,000 embraced almost directed the new faith, and then they increased the number until they were there to go to Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, Jacob or James, as they mutilated the name in English, the brother of Christ, was the leader of the church, leader of the community, and they became so dominant that he was able to go daily to the temple and daily go to the Holy of all holies. which only the chief priest can go once a year. He was going daily there for prayer. That's dominance. What's the problem with that? That's dominance. They were up above them. That's the dominance. That James Yaqub can go there in the temple, and just few years before they tried to apprehend his brother. We don't believe that they apprehended him. They apprehended someone who looks like him. But let's say they apprehended him and killed him. Now his brother go leader of the community and pray forcefully against her, not using any weapons, by his authority and the number of supporters. No report about fighting or even a boxing her. Nothing. Obviously, the clergy and the priests were so full of hatred and anger, but they couldn't do anything because the Romans said, no, these people are peaceful, let them pray. And then they got an opportunity in the year 62. There was a governor his term ended. Another governor was still on the way, about 2 months gap. In these 2 months gap, the chief priest, a cousin of the old chief priest who was heading the trial against Isa alayhi salam, or the imposter of Isa, and got an opportunity, rallied some thugs, and they killed Yaqub. And the very story how he was killed, that he was thrown from the temple down the stairs and was killed, or someone finished him with a bat or something like that. But they were dominant still, even with this, with killing of Yaqub, killing someone, even the leader, not me, I know dominant. They were still able to go to the, yeah. So what's the dominance? They became dominant. Yeah, Islam is dominant. It definitely dominated Christianity. Until now, it's dominating Christianity. Because in the Middle Ages, the only way Christianity could survive is of having an iron curtain of lies and fabrication against the Prophet ﷺ, and keeping Europe in the darkness of the Dark Ages. And when the Enlightenment started a little bit by bit, Christianity was defeated by the Enlightenment, which is instigated in part by the Islam and Islamic culture and civilization. So
just a message to Islamophobes. Back then, they used to have to convince people that Muslims had different colored blood. You are just another iteration of this. You have nothing of substance. You have zero of substance. Even this, just going through this alone, just taking things out of context.
That the West is conquering the world and so on is not. Is it the secular West who is conquering the West? Essentially, some of them may be Christian and so on, but it's not Christianity dominating. It's clearly not Christianity dominating.
Yeah,
it's the Western secularism, capitalism, greed, etc. That's what's dominating. Yes, that's true. And only in part, and is now also retreating. Now it's also retreating.
Also, just a slight segue. I mean, for all the great work that Tucker Carlson has done in, exposing the Zionist scumbags, he made a statement in one of his videos where he says that that's an Eastern doctrine. We have higher standards. I'm paraphrasing here, and it's like, really? Do you? If Madeleine Albright can say about 500,000 Iraqi children being killed through sanctions, that it's a price worth paying. If Fallujah, you can use white phosphorus. If you can use depleted uranium. If you use an A-10 tank busters to destroy an entire stretch of motorway 60 mile long. Was it 10 miles or 60 mile long, killing 10,000 civilians fleeing Iraq? Is this your higher standards? What standards are you talking about?
But the problem is that they have been so tuned in Europe since the Middle Ages that Islam is the natural enemy, the enemy of Christ. That's number one. And later, the whole East, that our civilization is really essentially for the secular ones is the is a Greco-Roman. We have nothing to thank to any other nations. And this is how bad students plagiarize the things and do not admit it. A good student will admit, that's for my teacher, this is for my teacher, and this is my contribution. That's perfectly fine, no problem. And they were ignorant about the world in a horrifying way. It's unbelievably horrifying way. And later on, then they have to spin a story that later on, obviously, when the Jews starting to becoming more nationalistic and so on, the secular Jews, actually, the religious Jews were secluded and not believing in that, all these things until now. They spun the story that is so-called Judeo-Christian culture of civilization. It was never there as a Judeo-Christian civilization. If you say Christian, if you say the official Christianity since the 2nd century is essentially, or the 3rd century, anti-Jewish. It's not Jewish. It's not Jewish.
Pogroms.
It's anti-Jewish. The original Christianity may be, in that sense, continuation of Judaism with improvement and cleaning. Yes, but not the one, not the Pauline Christianity. Actually, if we are fair, we should call it Pauline Judaism, but nobody will understand the word Pauline. So we should say Pauline Christianity. It's not Christianity. It's not the Christianity of Christ. So, and the people are fed that, and then because the whole philosophy is that Christ died for you, or else you are saved, and we're definitely entering paradise, like the Quran quote them say, قالت اليهود والنصارى لا يدخل الجنة إلا من كان هودا أو نصارى. Obviously, the Jew said nobody enter paradise except he's a Jew, and the Christian, the Nestorian at that time, the current Christian, Pauline Christian, and nobody enter paradise except the Christian. Allah said, answer them simply. تلك أمانيهم. This is their wishful thinking. قل هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين. Bring your evidence if you're telling the truth. Bala, indeed, anyone who believes in Allah, the day of judgment, and make good deeds, these are the people of the paradise. It doesn't know what's the title, which prophet he is following. So this, and they've been tuned to that, and it become then it took all of their mindset. They cannot think outside that. We are the self-aggrandization, and this is a fundamental disease. This is not only in states that states regard themselves as they are the just one, they are the one who have to dominate. Even it comes from every single person. We are the good ones. I remember one time Scott Ritter was very outraged, commenting about Israel, say these people, these are satanic people. There's a satanic nation called demonic nation. This was a satanic, just a demonic nation, etc. Say, but we Americans are better than that. In reality, not much better. Not much better, because the same attitude. We are the new Israel. We are the new chosen people. Even the biography of Obama, the subtitle of the biography is called "The Land of Promise." The same thing what the Jews think about Israel is the new Israel. Let me tell you what the answer is. It's not Israel. It's the new Babylon.
Babylon.
But that you have to look in yourself. You have to be critical. You have to criticize yourself.
Even this entire mentality of supremacy. I mean, look at Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He was so humble when he was talking about Musa alayhi salam have been resurrected before him, and he's hanging on the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He even was bashful in his own qualities. Yeah. So Rasulullah Isa alayhi salam.
Because the whole Islamic system, fundamentally, the Quran says clearly, do not purify yourself, do not declare yourself to be pure and holy. He knows very well who is the real pious ones, and this is the state of the heart. Another place, don't do that like the Jews say, because Allah knows what you are, and He knows you, how He shaped you in your mother's womb. You know which kind of structure you have, which hormones, which have weakness you have. So don't purify yourself. Allah will purify you. And the way to do that is the more you humble yourself, the more you are purified. The more you are self-critical, the more you are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the opposite of the attitude of the West. Generally, I mean Europe, really, that's what I mean. It's spread now. The two Americas are really absorbed by the West. Some variation of it, but essentially, and also Russia and so on. Because of this attitude of self, we are saved. That Christ died on the cross for us, and the Jews, we are the chosen people, and they fabricate in their books, obviously contradictory state, because if you check the books, you'll find place with the condemnation and threat that they will be punished until Yawm al-Qiyamah. But in another book, they fabricate and put in the mouth of another prophet that I will make a new covenant. That's all written after the Babylonic exile. Then after that, I will make my covenant with you forever. They think the people will covenant forever. This can't be. That's not possible. Covenant, you broke the covenant, another covenant was made, you broke it. After that, you are left to be scattered in the world and suffer because of your covenant breaking and your criminal activities. And the criminal activity is not a problem with the ancient people, they are responsible. That's past, but they approve it and regard it as a model to follow. So you are co-criminal. If you approve the crime of your ancestor and regard it as good, then you are a criminal also. It's a new crime, is a self-justification. A self-justification. Even what happened in Gaza, for example, some Jews said, it has taken too long. We should have succeeded in finishing Hamas. It seems to be God is not fulfilling his promise. It is time for you, God, to show to fulfill your promise and show some kindness. So they want to dictate to God what he's supposed to do. Is there any more self-aggrandization and hubris than that? Instead of humbling, there must be some problem with us. There must be some sin. But if they would have started this way, they wouldn't have been established this entity. They wouldn't have followed the Zionists to this disaster called Israel. Many they don't know, for example, they're supplicating daily that Allah will remove this entity because it's dangerous for the Jews. It is dangerous. It's bringing their life miserable. Now they're campaigning against Islam and so on. They're desperate. Most of the current Islamophobic movement is desperation. The old Islamic movement, because they regard Islam as the real danger, which the real danger for their imperialism and dominance. For example, the rebellion of 1857 in India. Who was the leader? And who was the real rebellion? The Muslims. The Hindus followed and the Sikh followed. Muslim was the leader. And the empire recognized that. These Muslims are a real danger. We have now, they started from that day seriously. Before that, just casually. But seriously, getting some of the Hindus to fill their mind that you are a nation, you are organized religion, you are that, in the hope that they will be sufficiently strong in India to prevent a Muslim to become dominant again and become a world. Because India, before the English started sucking the blood there, was historically the most wealthy nation in history, even up to date. The GDP is estimated to be 25% of the world GDP. America, which now in its peak, is only 18% of the world GDP. So relative to the rest of the world, India was the most prosperous in human history, even more prosperous than America in relation to the world of its time, obviously.
And they looted 45 trillion in gold by today's dollars in, well, this now.
And then the British knew the real force there, and that's one of the reasons they worked tireless into splitting India, because if they can get a good bunch of Muslims outside in two entities, which in one entity which later can be split in two, then the Muslim inside India will be a relatively small minority, not very small, but a minority, and they cannot be the dominant force politically. Because the Hindus do not have a state or society doctrine. It's a private, family-oriented religion. Each family has its own deity, and each village has a village deity. And they are happy under any rule.
In fact, Hindutva owes its origins to Nazi ideology as well. There is
is a European disease transplanted there in the poor Indians. The other Indians are very docile. The Hindus were never that hostile, except the Brahmin. They hostile to the lower castes that they rise up. That's all. But to other religions and other rulers, the ruler in space, they respect the ruler. They have no problem with the ruler. As long as they don't step in my house and take my God, my deity. And Muslim rulers and other rulers never stepped inside their houses.
Just as a parting message, I'll say this. So thank you for your question. We hope we covered it in sufficient detail. We don't always get to respond to all messages. Many messages are just completely incoherent. This was at least structured, and you did mention certain texts, which we hope we've clarified. I would like to say thank you, because what you've done is basically you've provided us with
an opportunity for a quick response. The detailed response, and it will be in our research, inshallah, which hopefully and some shabab who will read to me because of this vision issue. They'll read to me, we'll complete it, inshallah, and we'll try to translate it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Also, and if the person has no sincerity and is just doing it to mock, and you're a religious, devout Christian, know this, that you have just provided a nail in your own metaphorical coffin, in the sense that we've clarified issues, and this will be used as a template for future broadcasts. And if you have a reference point, so for example, I'm doing some research into this charlatan Raymond Ibrahim, I know if I do play it for you, Doc, you'll probably lose your dinner because it's so superficial and obnoxious. And it's like a revisiting. Yeah.
We may, if he's complete, so if it has some bits like this lady, that's okay.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I will go through it. Like the one couple 1 day ago, was it 1 day or 2 days ago, who said Muslim worship the Kaaba? If it's something like that,
that guy was a genuine idiot. Yeah, that's somebody they released from the mental institution. And it's entirely monosyllabic. No, but this person, so a lot of the Islamophobes are trying. So basically, the Zionists have let slip their dogs of propaganda.
Yeah.
And this guy, I mean, honestly, it's like going back to the days of Orientalism, and even like a retarded form of it. Stuff that's so easy to dismiss, but it's just got some traction. So you've got all these podcasts. There's a lot of right-wing podcasts that have just come up, and you can just see every single person that they platform are the most virulent form of Islamophobes and dimwits you can find. But because they talk with such authority, so that's partly why I wanted to use that.
If someone talks with better authority or some scholarship aspect or scholarship, yes. But if someone just plain donkey. But anyway, we just want to discuss.
It just needs more work for me to actually find to make the segments as short as possible, covering as much of their stupid point of view, so we can comment on it. Only reason I say that because some people in other Islamic platforms, I did correspond with a very prominent, someone who's affiliated with a very prominent group, who said that, gave me a little background on the guy. Because David Woods and all these other people do refer to this moron, it may be worth the time. But ultimately, my point of view is this. Our platform is about disseminating the call. The professor here is a professor of Islamic law, professor of physics, professor of hadith, professor of many, many disciplines, and knows more about Christianity than anyone I've ever met, more than blogging theology. So we want to get all this information out there. So this platform is not just one issue. It's not just the theory. It's just not Tawheed. It's not just Tawheed. It's not Islamic governance alone. It's going to be a platform for every single thing under the sun that we can do justice to, inshallah. There'll be some areas we can't cover, but this is what I call this Bitcoin mining the dog, trying to get as much nuggets of information out there to be thrown out into the world, so that the ummah can become equipped. So bring it on. Bring as much as you want on. Just be structured about it, inshallah, and we'll try and get to it. But know this. We have a concept called Sadaqah Jariyah, where you teach somebody and you get a reward from them. I don't know what the reverse is according to your own doctrine, but you have just opened up an opportunity for other people to be guided to Islam. So if you thought that you can bamboozle us, this has worked to your disadvantage. If you are open-minded, then look, ahlan wa sahlan. We've got plenty of material for you to learn off. And if you have follow-on questions, because I want to actually do a deep dive on Christianity, because the professor knows about all the various books, etc., the entire the chronology of your history, and that will be a great pretext for a series, inshallah. So, inshallah. Bring it. Sky's the limit.
بإذن الله. Okay, يلا بسم الله. I think we conclude. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد، وبارك على محمد وآل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.